You what?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oops. That's the main one, right? Good evening, and welcome to the City of Paris Planning Commission meeting, October 6, 2021. Call to order, and if you take the roll call.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Present.
Commissioner Lopez,
Here.
Commissioner Gomez,
Here.
Vice Chair Shively. Here. Chair Hammond.
Here. At this time, we'll just have a brief moment of silence, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Gomez.
Everyone, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I know we don't have formal presentations, but we do. I'm going to take this time to congratulate Mr. Kenneth Hung, who's now the Director of Development Services. So he's got a promotion. He'll still be, well, I'll let you say, but we're going to congratulate you.
Congratulations.
You're not getting away from us that easy, you know that too. So if anything you'd like to say, but at least have the position that you've got. And
Yes. Thank you, Chairman Hammond, members of the Planning Commission. Thank you for the congratulations. My new role is Development Services Director, so I'll be overseeing planning, building, code control, code enforcement, and animal control. I'm just thankful to be given this opportunity. My desire is to really serve the community. I've been serving the community for since about 2002. I kind of left for 3 years to work for a home builder, but most of my career has been here. I've been serving as a planning manager for the last 4 years, and this is just a new role, and I'm looking forward to the challenge, and I'm looking forward to serving the community and to make really Paris a great place to live, work, and play. And thank you so much.
And thank you, sir. We appreciate you. We could say a whole lot, but we'd be a long meeting tonight. I've known him for a while. Trust me, I've known you for a long while. We keep promoting people in the Planning Commission, and they get up to these positions, a city manager, all of them, and they don't give us anything, do they? But we're happy to be a part of it. Hopefully you can learn from us, good or bad, right? But we appreciate it. We come to the consent calendar. Planning Commission minutes for September 15, 2021. Does any commissioners have any corrections, any deletions, any? Okay. At this time, we'd like to open up for public comment on the consent calendar. Seeing none, we close. Oh, we don't. Do we still have online? Okay. Were there any online? I doubt it, but just going through the motion. Okay. Have to ask. Okay. With that, we come to a vote. I know, close the public comment. Okay. There never is, so I'm, okay. And at this time, we come to a vote. We have a motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Jimenez, second by Commissioner Lopez.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shively,
Yes.
Chair Hammond.
Yes.
With a vote of 5 yes, this motion passes.
Thank you very much. And this time we move to item 7A, Developmental Plan Review 20-00010, a proposal to construct 2 industrial buildings, i.e. 2,272 square feet, and 1,300 square feet, totaling 3,572 square feet, on a .17 acre site located on the north side of Nance Street, approximately 650 feet east of North Webster Avenue, APN 320-020-020. The applicant, Tony Serraro, sorry, I may not say it right. I'll try. Okay, I'm not good with it. Okay. Requested action, adopt resolution number 21-21, finding the project categorically exempt from CEQA under section 15332, class 32 infill development, and approved development plan review 20-00010, subject to the conditions of approval. And as always, are there any recusals, any ex parte contacts, or any site visits? We'll start this end. Okay. All right.
No, I have none.
Okay.
None this time.
Okay.
Not at this time.
None for me.
Okay. And I did visit the site. I usually do. Okay.
I
And
intended to.
Oh,
but
that's
never got to.
That's okay. So we open a public hearing. We've got. Oh, you're doing double duty now. Okay. Presentation by Ryan.
Wow.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Ryan Griffiths, and I will be presenting Development Plan Review 20-00010. Can you guys see this PowerPoint on your screen?
Ooh.
No.
PRES. Okay. We're seeing section A. The wording development. Okay. There we go.
There we go.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so first we'll take a look here at the aerial and the zoning for the property. You can see the location for the project is in the center of the screen in the green rectangle. It is a property that's roughly 7,500 square feet. It is within the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan, and within that specific plan, it is zoned general industrial. So are the properties in the general vicinity as well. The property directly to the north and the west is an existing AAA auto storage yard. The property directly to the east is an existing industrial building, and the property to the south is quite a large industrial building. This is standing at the site looking west. That block wall in the background is for the AAA auto storage yard. When they went in, they did the improvements. So the sidewalk is in, curb and gutter, street lights are in, and you can see also as a note, the utilities that are present along the frontage here, right on the other side of the sidewalk. This is taking a look from the sidewalk looking north. As you can see, the wall to the north and then to the west is for the existing AAA yard. And then there also is an existing industrial building to the east, and you can see their screen wall for the truck court there as well. Here's looking to the east. You can see more of that industrial building and more of that screen wall that they currently have. Looking south, so the other side of Nance, there's a larger industrial building there, and there's a big landscape buffer out in the front. Before we take a look at the site plan itself, I want to go over a couple of the constraints that are existing at the site. The main one is that the site is bound by existing utilities, both underground and above ground, and that makes up almost the entire frontage of the property and about roughly 400 or so square feet. There is relocation of some of these utilities that will be required in order to actually create a usable driveway into the site. You can see where the red clouded area is. That utility will have to be relocated closer to the foreground. And that area between the landscaping above that red cloud and then to the bottom of the red cloud, that will be the only location where a driveway will actually work for this site. And then the black arrow is actually pointing to an underground vault that Edison has here. That is just not feasible to relocate. So that restricts the driveway to be in this one spot only. And we based the overall design of the project around this. Also, another constraint is just the size of the lot. It is 7,405 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
And just for comparison, that's roughly the size of your average single-family residential lot, or that's average or slightly above average. So taking a look at the site plan itself, it's a total of 3,572 square feet of industrial. There's two buildings. The larger building in the rear is 2,272 square feet, and the smaller building up front is 1,300 square feet. As discussed previously, there's a single access point along Nance, and you can see it's kind of crammed as far west on the bottom as possible because of all the utilities. There is an outdoor picnic area that's in the green, situated between the two buildings. There's 5 parking spots proposed with this project, and there is 14% of on-site landscaping, making up 1,010 square feet or so. Due to the size of this project, it's not intended for any large commercial vehicles, so there'll be no 18-wheelers, so there's no loading or dock doors that are going to be associated with this project. Within the PVCC specific plan, under general industrial, it either meets or exceeds all of the development standards in terms of lot coverage, building size, structure height, setbacks, and also landscaping. For the parking standards, this 2 buildings will be utilizing office area and warehouse area. For the uses, they're required to have 5 parking spaces, and they are proposing to have 5 parking spaces. Here's some renderings so you get an idea of what this project will look like. There will be metal canopies above windows, decorative faux wood trim around almost the entirety of the frontage of the buildings, decorative trellis covers, and a pop-out for the office area fronting the street. In conclusion, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2121, finding the project categorically exempt from CEQA under Section 15332 for Class 32 infill development, and approve Development Plan Review 20-00010 to construct 2 industrial buildings totaling 3,572 square feet on a 0.17 acre site located on the north side of Nance, approximately 650 feet east of North Webster Avenue, and subject to the conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation. The applicant, Tony, is here if you have any questions. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. And at this time, are there any commission questions for staff and for staff only? You got to get used to this. Doesn't make any sense. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Were there any comments?
Yeah, I have a question.
Mr. Ryan?
One of my questions is in regards to the driveway. There's a driveway to the east of the project, and it's really close. I don't know if that's going to be an issue with traffic and how people are going to merge going right. Is there an issue with that? Like how close the vicinity of that driveway, both driveways to the entrance of the project?
There shouldn't be an issue just due to the amount of traffic utilizing the site. And also, we do have to accommodate this parcel and give them access. Originally, some backstory on this property, it was going to be included in that AAA project. They were going to annex this property into that and make a basin there, but that fell out, so now this property is kind of left there. The only way to get access would be at this location. I think it would be a larger project. There might be an issue, but for such a small-scale operation, that distance to that other driveway shouldn't create any issues.
And what about the flow of traffic traveling west, traveling west on Nance? Is Nance a 1-lane road? I'm looking at it right here on Google Maps, and it looks like it's 1 lane.
It's right there.
So it's one-way traffic each way, but there is enough room to park on the street.
Okay.
So it is a wider width. The engineer might know the more specifics on that, but it is a decently wide street, but it is only one way on both ways.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Thank you.
Missionary Minute.
So I just saw the little area for the table, and when I was looking at the landscaping and the plants, I wanted to just kind of see how employees would have access to that area, because it didn't seem like it was very accessible, because it was pretty narrow.
Yeah, it's a smaller area. The reason we put it there is just because it will be shaded between the two buildings. I believe the easiest way to accomplish that without reducing the landscaping is just to put pavers that will go from the sidewalk area, a couple pavers to that bench so that someone can utilize it. And that way they can take advantage of the shade that will be created between those two buildings.
That was my only question for staff. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Commissioner,
Thank you. I do have a question. So in regards to safety of the building, according to the drawings, it looks like it's very close to all of the walls that are surrounding it. Can you tell me what is the distance between the building and the wall?
So for this one, there's a distance of 2 feet. This building's actually framed internally with metal, so it's not your traditional wood construction, so that allows it to be closer to the property line. Also, within the general industrial code, the actual setback for a structure to the rear and the side is actually 0. So in theory, you could build your building right on that property line. This project was sent to our fire reviewer, and they approved it with that 2-foot setback. So there was no issues on their end in terms of meeting fire and safety code.
I'm not sure if I can ask this, but our attorney can tell us. But my question is, can a person get lodged in between there? It's 2 feet. I mean, I think it's pretty much it answers itself. But that is one of my questions is getting a. I mean, when fire approves it, it's because it's a metal building, right? That's it. So because it's allowed to be built all the way to the back of the block at 0, right? Then I guess anything other than 0 would be okay. What's the distance between the two buildings where the picnic table is? And I'm asking only because I didn't see it on the map, and if I missed it, I apologize.
About 5.5 feet between the two buildings.
So it's okay. Well, we won't run the risk of anyone laying down there, right?
The benches are gonna be like wall to
they'd have to be.
5 feet is enough for 88 turnaround.
Another question I have in regards to the, you said that there's 2 awnings for the windows, but one is not a window, right? There's 2 faux windows.
Correct.
So for this entire building, confirm for me, there's only 2 doors for both buildings.
The building in the rear has the entry door right by the trash enclosure you can see. The
Yes.
building in the front has the office door that faces Nance, and then also has that other door closer to the picnic area. The
There's
building in
another
the
door?
front,
Uh-huh.
that's going to house the office and the restrooms. That would be more that use. The building in the rear is meant more as just as a strictly warehouse building.
That's what I
Thank
was
you, yeah. So there's a door next to the parking, the ADA parking, correct?
Yes.
Correct, yes.
And then that's a faux window, and then there's another door in between these 2 buildings?
There's a building, how can I show it here?
Because I didn't see one in the drawing either. I don't know if you guys saw it. I only saw 2 doors.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe you can scroll to the site plan.
Can you see the mouse on here?
Yeah, the plan on A 1.0.
Yeah, so
only appears to have
basically,
one
where the
exit.
table is,
Yes?
there is a door there leading to the walkway in front of the building.
After or closer to the wall, or after the table, closer to the parking?
Closer to the parking.
If that's the door, then that's a roll-up door or something like that.
Oh,
So
good, yeah.
Yeah, that second door wasn't indicated in that other one.
could,
Oh, I
so-
see it. That white door right there?
Yes. But it's
That-
not indicated in the other one?
It's
You don't
not,
see the
huh?
little door thing? Mhm.
So there's 2 doors on one and 1 door on the other.
Correct.
And by code, with the occupancy they have, they can get away with 1 exit with less than 49 or less occupants.
And I apologize if the plan shows something separate. We originally had worked with the applicant to have a rolling door in this area, but due to trying to make the parking work, that idea kind of left, and they put a traditional door there for unloading. But in the past, they did look to have a a roll-up door in one of those locations on the building.
And to confirm, this is a storage unit?
It's just going to be just a spec warehouse, so any mom and pop that wants to use it for whatever business they can. I don't believe the applicant has a tenant at this time, but it basically would just be a storage use for someone that needs a small warehouse. That would just require vans or a very small commercial vehicle to transport.
Okay. We're just looking at the elevations and rendering, because that's the only way. Yeah, okay. She was talking about in between, oh, I'm going to call you fast.
No, go ahead.
In between there, if you look at the elevations renderings, the entrance is over there, I'm saying to the west, so that's the only entrance. But the employees to get to the tables, where would they go to get to the tables there? In
So
other words,
the table's quite close to the walkway. I think it's only a foot or two away from the ADA walkway around
Oh,
the
okay,
buildings.
I think I see it.
So
I
they'd
think-
probably just put a paver or two, so you could just step there and then go to the
Okay,
bench.
I think I see that little tiny, in between buildings there, okay.
I think the effort
Yeah.
that's provided for the outdoor seating area is just to try to
Yeah.
meet that, not meet the requirement, because the requirement doesn't have it, but just the expression from the planning
Yeah.
commission to have some sort of amenity.
Yeah.
So we're
Okay.
just trying to provide that, but it is very constrained just because of the small
Okay.
lot configuration
No problem.
and the closeness to the building. So it was just an effort to try to create some sort of amenity for the employees.
Okay. Did you have any more questions, Commissioner?
Not at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Shively, do you have any?
I really don't have questions, but observations. Access to, it must be maintained that the access to the table has to be accessible for ADA purposes. And then, as well as the pop-out or overhang for that front entry along Nance should be probably 36 inches deep, and I don't know how that affects the setback of the building. That is part of the building code and green building code, but it just as a statement. I have nothing further.
Oh, Commissioner Jimenez? Okay.
Quick question. Why are there faux windows and not real windows in the building?
I believe that the locations of them, it's not required for the use of the building. Also, since these are and the applicant might be able to speak a little further, but from my understanding, since these are pre-engineered metal buildings, if they do a decent amount of structural changes to them, they have to re-engineer them. So the applicant, after working with staff, try to put as much additions onto this building as possible without having to re-engineer the building as a whole. So a lot of the trim and stuff doesn't change the actual structural aspects of the building. The faux windows do not either, but if they cut a hole in there and actually put a window, I think that changes the actual structural aspects, and they have to re-engineer the buildings all over again.
Do you know if they ever did consider having windows in any of the buildings?
I believe we spoke about it, but due to the amount of money that would go into having to re-engineer them, we just worked with the faux windows.
Okay. And they don't have solar panels, right? I was, they don't have, I don't see solar panels on here.
No, and if they did, we probably would have to run it by the March Air Force Base
That's
just
the
due to
problem. Oh, right.
proximity, so I don't even know if they'd be able to have solar panels here.
Okay. Thank you. That was it.
Commissioner Gomez? Sorry.
I was very conflicted looking at this last night, just to be honest with you.
Okay.
It's a very nice building, but my next question is going to be, was there a discussion at any time with the applicant to make this one building instead of two, due to all of the constraints that we're looking at right now?
We did have that discussion, but in order to have, and that kind of goes back to the previous question, to have a building in that shape, it would have to be a custom engineered building rather than two prefabbed buildings. And due to the constraint on the size of this project, to make it feasible for the applicant to develop it, it would have to be pre-engineered buildings. If they have to go and get full engineering calcs on a new custom building, it may not be feasible for the applicant to proceed.
Do we know if these buildings are already made? at this time ordered and made?
I believe the order has been placed, but the applicant can confirm.
Okay. These buildings are prefab. Are they like the container-type buildings that are being modified into these structures, or is it a different, completely different type?
It's completely different.
Okay.
It wouldn't be like that.
They're metal insulated panels. So they got metal on two sides, or one side insulation, and then metal panel or jet board on the interior.
Yeah, and just for reference, I tried to get a picture to show you guys, but there's a new library built in Menifee off of Winchester, and it pretty much follows the same architecture, just on a little larger of a scale. But it's such a recent build, I wasn't able to get a picture to show you guys.
Okay. Commissioner
I'm good.
Shively, did you have, oh, go right ahead. Commissioner Shively, did you have any?
No further comments.
Okay. I just have quick references. Number one, condition, it kind of goes back to what Kenneth was talking about. Number 25, and this is being picky. It says outside of the COA, condition number 25, nothing wrong except the word shall. And this is voluntary, right?
Correct.
So I don't know if we want to use the word shall. So we don't want to make it like they're doing this because they're doing it. They don't have to do it. So I'm just wondering if we could change the word shall. I don't know, I'm not an English teacher. Should, could, include. Anything.
We can include the word may.
Okay. I wasn't the greatest student. Yeah. I got by, so, okay. Okay. The other one, and it's probably a basic question, and maybe there's a reason for it. The driveway is 20 feet and not 26. So did we just do, for this project, that you'd have a variance, or the fire department signed off anyway? I know this is a small property, but normally, isn't it 26? So,
The engineer might be able to comment further, but
Okay.
fire did review and they did approve
the
the
20
project.
foot, okay, I'll remember that in the
Correct.
future.
There's additional, I believe, 6 feet
Mm-hmm,
on the west side.
mm-hmm,
Once you get into the driveway, so there is a 26 width. It's just that driveway in
Wait,
order
it's 20.
to accommodate it is 20, but then it goes into a 26. Right on the other side where there's that landscape buffer,
yeah,
it turns into a 26 after that.
okay. Yeah, I was wondering how you got that one got by. Okay. The landscaping, I'll leave it on. If it went by the picture drawing, we'd be here a long time tonight. So
Yeah,
hopefully,
one thing about that with the
Yeah.
landscaping, this is quite conceptual,
Yeah.
and that's mainly just because due to the relocation of all the utilities, the applicant really has to kind of work with Edison and figure out
Yeah.
where the new utilities will be, how much of a clear space has to be around them,
Okay.
and then also what plants would not be allowable for the underground vaults. You can't put a tree next to it.
Right.
So this is quite conceptual, and the applicant kind of put a little more landscaping against the building in the rendering, because that's what the project he wants to have. But in realistically, we're not sure what will be there. So once the project does move forward, formal landscape plans will be submitted that will show each and every plant irrigation with the guidance of Edison
Right.
prior to that.
Okay. Yeah, because I know you were going to. Just an observation for the city, not for the developer yet. Obviously, the street is one way each way, because I was there this morning. The trucks were queued coming west to east, going into the southern property. I'm not sure I forget the name of that property, but that large building. So they were queued, and they were queued on the north side. So I had to go around the truck and risk my life to get in front of it. And there really is not a lot of space there. So I think the engineer could probably comment on the 66-foot width of a truck.
Good evening, Commissioners. Commissioner Hammond, Chairman Hammond, yeah, the roadway is actually a collector, therefore, and that's per general plan. And there's a two-way roadway on that. So yes, it is narrow,
So
type of use.
yeah, hopefully it won't back up anything. Just even the car and passenger going in there, it could be. Now that was of course between 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8:30. So hopefully we'll have to find out what the hours are. But that was really an issue there. The fact that there was one lane, and you were right, there was one lane going each way, but I was there when the trucks were there. And you know what those big rigs mean, you're not moving. And they were sitting up waiting to go into that property on the south side. And I said, wait a minute. So, but that's not their issue. That's just something about the width of the streets, and that goes back into truck routes, and that's another 2-hour discussion. But that's just a note, just something I noted, and just hopefully that's not an issue. It's not your fault, right? Trust me. But I just saw that, and that's why it's so important to see, because I picked the times, and I went there right when the trucks were there, and I'm like, wow, you know. Wasn't expecting a guy going west, and he's with the flashers trying to turn in there at the same time, and going, what's going on? And they didn't open the gate. So 6 or 7 trucks are lined up down the street. That's not good. But I understand, you know, that's busy, and there may be other reasons because you have to come up and go that way. But it was just, you know, if you're a passenger vehicle and you're trying to get around there. So that's why really truck route is going to have to be a truck route. Mm-hmm. But this is a passenger, and vans and smaller, so hopefully that won't be much of an issue. We just have to kind of monitor that. But that was it for me. And Commissioner Jimenez has it.
Chairman Hammond, just to clarify, the minimum width for a commercial driveway is 24 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, these, due to constraints,
Yeah.
we had to allow the 20-foot wide.
Well, that's a good point. It's general industrial.
Is this industrial or commercial?
Correct. I believe, and I may be wrong, but the commercial standard, I think, covers both.
That's right. Commercial driveways, industrial driveways, they're the same.
They're
It
both
is
24.
Correct. Minimum width is 24.
Okay.
But we're looking at this is, but just to clarify, this is an industrial application, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
It's commonly known as a commercial driveway, but commercial/industrial driveways.
Okay. No, thank you. I was just clarifying because it kind
Good
of, the word threw me off, and I was like, wait, I thought we were looking at an industrial application, but thank you so much for clarifying.
That's okay.
Ryan, normally when there's any kind of warehouses, you inspect buildings, offices are usually air conditioned. I didn't see an air conditioning unit on here. Did I miss it?
I don't think that's shown on this set. If that's something you want to request from the applicant, he is here and you can bring that up. But I don't believe the condenser was shown on this set of plans.
And I know normally when it's bigger buildings, they don't air condition. When we have smaller buildings like this, even the back building is only like 2,000 something square feet. Have you seen other buildings that are air conditioned that are that size?
To be honest with you, I haven't seen very many new industrial
Nice.
buildings that are
Right.
this small. So I know commercial does, but in terms of industrial, I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay, does anybody on staff know?
No, this is very rare for something to be
Yeah.
this small. This
Yeah,
is a
like
very unique
industrial.
site.
Yeah.
The applicant probably be best to answer that question if he intends to air condition it. But typically, something this small, they would, but I would defer to the applicant.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, and with that, we can move on to, if there are any presentations from the applicant at this time. And if you would state your name and just spell your last name for us. We got Ryan running all over.
My name's Tony Sarayo.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry. Could I talk with this
Sure.
on, or?
Yeah, we can hear you. I guess we can hear you.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, if we can hear you, sure.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
And what questions did you have?
No, did you have a presentation of any time or anything
No,
you'd
I
like to say?
don't. I was just relying on Ryan's.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Are there any questions for the commission for the applicant? Okay, Commissioner Goodwin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely a unique building. Very small scale for what we're used to seeing. I understand the constraints. When discussed the size of the building, and what was your decision in making it 2 buildings instead of 1?
We wanted out of flexibility of having maybe 2 tenants there.
Okay.
That was one, to rent it out to 2 separate people. And the design, the L-shaped building, it'd be really hard to connect both those buildings if they were separately with one roof. So we separated, and it was easier for the engineer to design this style type of building. If it was a single one building, I think they call it the hip or something, from the far right corner of the back building going to the smaller building, they couldn't design it where the hip of the joint would meet, because the building height, they're angled. And if you could see it on both buildings, one slants this way, the other one slants this way, and you just can't meet them together. It would have to be something totally customized. I've asked for it because we wanted it to have just one building there and actually split the buildings inside with a wall and still have two separate tenants, but we couldn't do it.
Okay. And what is the intended use for these buildings? Do you know what they could be used for?
Right now, we don't have any tenants in mind. As soon as we get the approval, we'll start, advertising, seeing what type of tenants we could bring in.
The size of the offices are fairly small.
Yes.
And it's more storage space than not.
Correct.
This tells me that there's going to be some traffic with storage, bringing in and moving out. I see you have the door. Do you have any concerns as with the size of the doors to accommodate people being inside of this warehouse space and having access coming in and out of the buildings?
No, because they're so small. I mean, that front building is really small, and we have two doors. The back one, yes, it might be used for warehouse. We thought about that. But like I said, they're just so small. To put another door in there, and then also have the ADA walkway to that extra door. We just didn't have it, because then we cut into landscape. Everything was just like, if we took from here to add to something, it just messed with all the calculations with landscape, with the oversize, with the actual parking lot itself, and the building size as well. So if we added a door, we had to add sidewalk. That took away from landscape. So we tried to design something that covered everything, and then this is what we came up with.
We have I'm concerned for the residents that are going to be around this building because of how close the buildings are to the back walls. And that's one of the main concerns that I see, because even the side of the building where the trash, I just have it in my head, enclosure, where the trash enclosure is small as it is. So all of these walkways, how do you feel about the concerns in regards to safety? Like if someone were to get lodged in between those two doors.
So there's 2 feet. I heard your concern about the 2 feet if someone would get stuck in between the building.
Yeah.
There's actually an extra foot around the whole building. That's just on the walls that encapsulate that property. So my property line is 75.
Yeah.
But if you go and measure it, it's actually bigger than that if you go wall to wall, because the adjacent properties didn't build right to my property line, and that's where they put up the wall. They gave themselves a buffer, and I believe it's 77 something is the width, and my building's only 71 feet.
So it's not 2 feet, it's 7 feet?
No, so going around the buildings, it's going to be about a 3-foot walkway all the way around.
There's a walkway behind these buildings?
No, you would be able to walk around. There's not a walkway, no.
So a
You'd be
person
able to
can
walk
fit
around.
to walk behind the buildings?
Yes.
I just find I find that I got 2 different answers on the same question. That's it for me right now.
Okay, anyone on this end?
My question is, were you planning on having air conditioning in these units?
In the front one, yes.
But you said that potentially having two tenants, you wouldn't even prepare the second one
Because the
for-
back one, we think is gonna be warehouse. We could maybe add it, just depend on the tenant. Right now, you know, with cost and everything, we try to cut the cost as much down as possible, so. The front has an office slash little warehouse. The back is just open to whatever they wanna do as an improvement. If they wanted us to add it, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
And the AC units would go in between the buildings.
That's where I figured they would go. Also, with the back unit, the front building has two doors, the back one only has one. So even if somebody was gonna potentially maybe get it as a second, I don't know how comfortable they would be with all their employees and everybody walking right by the trash can to get into the building. I'm wondering why you didn't have one like going straight from that same little sidewalk.
Yeah.
It's because of the way the driveway is, where it's located, and the way, when we worked with the WQMP, was they just wanted to pull the trash, the trash truck straight in.
Right.
And it's not like it's a huge problem where they could just make a U-turn and pull right out, so they want to be able to back right back out. So if we located it somewhere else, they wouldn't have that option to take out our trash or.
Right, no, my question was, why isn't there a second door in the back building where you could have had one closer to
Oh,
where?
not by, I'm sorry.
Just in case it was a second building, people could use that one as their main entrance, and the other one would be like still warehouse use, instead of walking right by the trash can.
The trash container was actually in a different location, but since we needed a certain amount of square footage for the parking lot, we had to put it there by the door.
Okay,
And
and the
not-
reason for not having a second door on the back building was,
It was just engineered just to have one from the get-go. We just wanted one door.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shively, did you have any comments? Okay. Anyone else? Oh,
I think this one might be directed at staff.
it's staff?
Yeah, is that bad or no? Well, it's about the parking. My concern is, if you have two tenants, there's only 5 parking spaces. Is that gonna be a problem, like, having parking outside on the street? That's what you're expecting to happen?
I'm not sure exactly where, if they took up all the parking spots with 2 tenants. This is just something that we would like to have the be able to do. If we could have 2 tenants, great. If it's just 1 tenant, then that's what it is. But, you know, we don't have any more spots on the property for extra parking spots just because of how big that property is.
Yeah, I don't know if staff could answer this question. Is there like a certain limit on the parking spaces and how many tenants they have? Or how many tenants are expected to have?
Yeah, some of that is just open to the market. I know that the applicant is saying that there's potential of 2 tenants. This site is not very large, it's 7,500 square feet. The facility is not very large. It's the size of typically a larger size home. So he's just asking for flexibility. What that reality is, it might be different. So I just want to just mention that. And then I know that Commissioner Gomez is concerned about the access around the building. I'll just throw this out there and we can ask the applicant, but if it makes you feel more comfortable, you can ask for a condition for 5 feet around the building so that it's more easy to walk around and avoid the potential issue of an animal or person getting, I don't know, stuck.
Yeah,
So to
I
speak.
agree, but the thing is that I got 2 different answers, and so the lack of clarity is something that if there isn't the applicant mentioned there was about 7 feet. For
Yeah,
both sides.
if I may. So on the site plan itself, the applicant's measuring from the building to the property line, which is 2 feet.
Yes.
But when the surrounding uses of AAA and the industrial building built their wall, they did not build that wall on the property line.
They
It is
inset
offset into their property a foot or so. So overall, it's closer to 3.5 feet between that wall to the building. My recommendation would be if you are concerned about access around there, we could put a gate there and have that locked just to secure it, because if there is any kind of maintenance, it would be beneficial for the applicant to be able to get back there. But in terms of trying to create a larger setback, then that would have to change the building size, which means you'd have to re-engineer a whole new building. So I would just ask, if possible, if you are concerned about access, that we consider potentially just putting a gate in those areas.
So, I guess the question that I may bring about is,
We'll make sure, because any questions for the applicant first, because if we can always.
this is the question for the
Yeah,
applicant.
okay.
No new fence will be constructed on your property line. You're going to utilize what existing,
Correct. Not as of yet. We're not putting in.
so they're
another
going to he's going to kind of claim the extra foot of property and utilize it as need be. One issue with providing a gate on the back might be for fire purposes. If you put a gate there, then the firefighters have to climb the gate or break down the gate to get into it. A normal person, can climb back in the area that's 2 feet. If it is 2 feet back there, I would suggest having no landscape back there, so they don't have to climb over any vegetation to walk all the way around the building. That's my thoughts.
Okay, any more questions or comments for the,
I did have one more.
okay, Commissioner Minute.
I noticed that the trash enclosure has that gap on top. Would you be open to putting some trellises around just for people walking by to not toss their trash in there, just to keep it a little bit more
Sure,
sanitary and
absolutely.
enclosed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And staff can work with them, right, to make sure it's pretty and goes with the architecture.
One question I did have
Mhm.
earlier, I just
Mhm.
remembered. The trash enclosure, it says in the conditions of approval that they're going to be surrounded, screened by landscaping from the public view, which is not what we see here. Can we work with the applicant to be able to get that as it is here, the conditions of approval? Because I don't see it on here. And the picture doesn't show it.
Even as potted plants, or
Sorry?
even if it's potted plants or something?
If it's in the conditions of approval, I think whatever the conditions stipulate, what do the conditions stipulate? Can it be a pot or should it be in the ground?
I think there's room for it in this particular case, because there's that 2-3 feet side setback, so there could be some landscaping on the left side, and the right side we can work with the applicant to figure out something.
Okay. Another question for the applicant. Have you already placed an order on these buildings?
We have,
You have, okay.
but they're not finalized, meaning that they're not being, when we finalize it, they'll be in production. So we're not finalizing until we get the approval. Once we get the approval, then we'll finalize it. But yes, I do have a contract with Robertson.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or for the applicant? Okay. I'm going to speak now for everyone. Okay. Yeah,
No
okay.
going back.
Thank you very much. At this time, we open it up for public comment on this item on the agenda. And I take it there's no one on Zoom. I just do that for the, in case there were one person sitting out there.
You're not on Zoom.
Oh, okay, Zoom, okay.
Zoomed in on it, but you're not on Zoom.
Oh, yeah, that's a picture of us, okay. Seeing there's no public comment, we want to close the public hearing and go to discussion and from the commission. And we can start this side if you want, whoever wants to go first. Okay.
All right.
Switch it up every.
I find that we're trying to fit a building into a very tight space. I understand that there's always a need to get the most out of you can with what you have. Taking that into consideration, there's so many, we're considering the driveway, considering security concerns with the doors, we're not even sure what kind of occupant we're gonna have in this building. It's a warehouse, but it's definitely like a house. And the other things that were mentioned, and I'll let you explain on those that you mentioned, however, but I do take those into consideration as well, such as the air conditioning. If this is gonna be a mom and pop type, we're looking for a small business, which we are. We love our small businesses here in the city. And we want to attract more small businesses, but we also want to give them something that can be accommodated for them. And most likely small businesses are family owned. So we have to consider the type of occupant that's going to be in this building. Having that said, I believe that the applicant can definitely work with staff and meet those requirements that we're looking for to make this something that, when it's seen in this wonderful architecture construct, it'd be something that be comfortable with. So having that said, I really like us to consider, I want to consider that information. I want to make sure that the trash enclosures, I hope that the staff can work with them on making sure that there's landscape. It is very bare, according to the plan. But there are several limitations. There's only one door on one of the buildings. Access in and out is very limited, including what Commissioner Shively mentioned was the ADA to the picnic table in the middle. And if we do accommodate with air conditioning, we have to remove that as well. So there are a lot of limitations taken into consideration for this. And that's it for me now.
Okay. Sure, Isaac?
I agree with Commissioner Gomez. I think we should for sure accommodate the tenants or whoever's gonna take over the building. Especially if it's a small business, we want to make sure that they're comfortable. That being said, overall, I think the design is good. It's modern, it's clean, simple, and I do like the inclusion of the trellises and the EV charging station. I think for sure that's gonna make a difference, especially like the direction that vehicles are moving in, and it's gonna help out whoever's gonna stay there, the tenants. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Missionary Minute.
I do like that there's a little picnic area that was put in, into consideration. I did find it very interesting that the smaller building has 2 doors and the larger building only has one that's closest to the trash. I'm concerned about the air conditioning. Another concern of mine is that it doesn't have windows, and there's only a certain type of building or usage that I can think of that doesn't have windows. So that is a little bit concerning because, most tenants kind of like to look out, like to have window and access to the outside. Because you're working natural light, you're working 8 hours. You don't want to sit in a building that has non-natural light all day. So those were my concerns. I understand the constraints. I like the explanation where, the adjacent lots built further into their lot, so there's more room. But the air conditioning is one of my concerns, no natural light. And I know there's not a requirement for it, but I think most tenants like that. I think most of the industrial buildings that we have seen, at least for the office space, have windows with natural light. Warehouses, it's a little bit harder. They have little skylights or along the top where there's still a little bit of natural light coming in. Those were my concerns. I like the modern look of them, and I understand that adding all the things that are attached on doesn't affect the integrity of the building, but I would have liked to see windows and an additional door from the get-go. I mean, looking straight at the elevation, going straight from that sidewalk, it would have been perfect to have a door there with 2 doors kind of closer to the picnic area. Those are just my concerns, and I understand having to do anything like this is very expensive to have them go back and try to do that. So I don't know if moving forward, I don't know if it's something we can put in the conditions of approval where if it is gonna be 2 tenants, that back building also requires AC. Or moving forward, we would like to have buildings with offices have windows or access to natural light. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Shively?
So, I just kind of looked back at the floor plan. So the building along Nance does appear to have 2 windows in the lobby area, with 1 fake window and 1 fake window on the side. The back building has no windows, 1 door. For any space that is an office space or occupiable space, there should be air conditioning in there. Depending on how that second unit is going to be used, if it has office space, it has to provide some type of air conditioning in there, whether through a split system or, T-pack or something like that. That's going to have to be in there to provide air in the conditioned space or the office spaces. But the warehouse spaces are a little bit different. Don't really require by code air conditioning. Swamp cooling could be used sometimes for it to be done. Design-wise, I think I understand modular. I understand it pretty well. One day you're going to have a foundation, and next day it's going to be built. It's going to be built within 2 days overnight, and it'll be there. Then you got to finish all the other overhangs and canopies and stuff like that. They'll be done in a week or so. So you're going to have a building within 3 or 4 weeks possibly, and you'll be done, right? So that's the grandeur of having a modular building per se. It's going to be quick. The architecture of it, the colors, the finishes are all work well to what you have. If you would, please look at the code for the overhang on that front entry as well. Should be 3 feet for a code. I think you possibly have 2 feet in there. Other than that, I think for the space you have, I think it fits well. Parking wise, you're adequately parked per the required square footage that you have is 5. Whether you have 2 units, or 2 occupants, or 1 occupant, we don't know at this time. So, I mean, they're going to have to work out some agreement between the 2, if there is, on who's taking the parking spots and visitors going to be in and such like that. So I don't think there's really any off-site parking that'll be allowed on this building because of the type of street it is. It's a tight, confined space because of the utilities that are there. But doing the best it is for the small site and what the utilities are allowing. So I don't see any issue with the building itself and the design of itself. So.
Anyone else? Okay. Promise to keep it brief. Yeah, I number one thing, I think for the amount of space, I don't have a problem with any of this. I think the parking spaces that you've done this long time, as long as that is conducive to what's required. So if the front building, air conditioning that's something, if that was an issue, you'd have to work it out. We have to have a staff, and I think staff needs to make a consideration. Since the spec, and I don't think you have a tenant for each one of them, it's almost impossible to know what they're going to need. So the back thing, warehouse, I think we mentioned about windows, that's one of those considerations where what's going to go in there. Parking on the street is not going to be possible, so what goes in that back building ultimately becomes a warehouse. You're not going to be able to have as many employees, just simply because of parking. So it really is going to limit that ability anyway for the back. I do appreciate the fact you have some outdoor spaces as a limited amount, but you don't have to do it. See, I don't want to be forceful here. You're volunteering to do it. We twist our arms on the big giant ones, no mercy. But this is really property just larger than, just slightly larger than my house size. So I already know you can only squeeze so many things in there. There's no way. Mine's a 6,700, and it's a 70-something. So there's no way. I already know. So within the limitations and everything, I agree with everything they're saying. I just think where I always defer to staff, working with them, like plants around the trellis, things like that. Not really an issue because I know, once you get the electrical and all that other stuff there, you can work with staff to deal with that. Landscaping is very important to us. We don't want gigantic trees in front. That street, as I said earlier, has two-way traffic, so you're going to have trucks. You're going to have to work out that merger. That will be an issue. Okay, depending what time of day. And again, it comes spec because how often you're going to have this open, who's there. That's a determination since we don't know. We're just kind of speculating on what would be there, but it's not going to be something that's going to have a lot of employees. So that becomes kind of obvious. And, a resident architect doesn't have a problem. I don't have a problem. He's the expert. I'm not. But I think for the amount of space squeezed in, what's in there, I don't, either that or we just keep looking at a weed field. I mean, if you just want weeds and you want that vegetation, people could say, yeah, well, no problem. That's what's going to stay forever. Do you really want that in the city? Okay. So the best possible use of it, we can always say there could be a few more things. I think windows is very important. Especially the front building, to have windows, and I don't think we even have to really discuss that, put them in, okay? But that's one of those things where if you have people there, it's a whole different ballgame, where you're just putting warehouse and stuffing things in there. That's another. My only consideration for the back is you can't really, the doors are going to be very narrow, so if you're going to put stuff in there, you have a 30-foot door, that's like a house, we got a problem, okay? So if you're going to drive a van up and put it there, I mean, what is the size of that front door? I'm a little surprised that got by because you're going to be limited as to what you can do. So the guy drops off a package from across the street, Amazon or something, and says, okay, we'll package, you stack it like that. That's pretty much what you're going to have if you're going to have that kind of door. There's not going to be a roll-up screen 30, foot. I'm assuming that's not the case. So you're going to really have to limit. It's going to be very limited as what can do there. But other than that, I think we pretty much covered it. Pretty much covered everything. I think, you're doing this about the best you can do with that size property. I'm really surprised that it's general industrial, right? There's you're not going to build anything there. We're not going to manage. You have the right to if it's general industrial. But if it's light industrial, that's one thing. General industrial, you want to make widgets and start smoke in the sky, But you'd have to have employees, so you can't even really seriously do that there. So it's going to be small. It's going to be very small. Again, we just don't know who's in there, so it's a spec thing. But I think you did a good job to squeeze it in to the size that you. I mean, there's nothing more you can do, Otherwise, put a house there, right? And you can't do that. But anyway, I think that's it for me. Unless there's anything anyone else would like to add. Okay. And with that, we have a motion. Now, there's some amendments. And you're better at writing than I am, but I think one of them is condition of approval number 25, and that's a minor. Changing from shall to may. So authoritarian may. I don't want to be authoritarian, okay. Trellis, we wanted some landscaping around the trellis to make it screen around there. What was the other?
The trash, landscape around the trash enclosure.
Yeah, the trash enclosure. And I think that was it.
Air conditioning?
Air conditioning's on the front.
If I may, so it would be a motion to approve, subject to the amendments
Yeah.
to
Mm-hmm.
include the condition 25 of the conditions of approval
Mm-hmm.
of the planning commission's conditions of approval from shall to may.
Mm-hmm.
There's I'm sorry, could you repeat the
Trash enclosure to have
trellises?
Provide landscape.
landscaping around it.
Landscaping and trellises.
And trellis,
Okay,
to screen that.
Yeah.
and that's it?
The air conditioning?
On the front building.
I think the front building already has
The
air
front
conditioning.
window.
I think Commissioner Shiley said if you have an office, you're required to have air conditioning.
Yeah.
So if they have an office, they would be required to have air conditioning. So if that would be, I'm assuming that would be already part of the building code.
Yeah.
Or unless you want to specifically include that if the rear building includes office, we can add that in there too.
I would like to add it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was there, I'm playing dumb here, was there a condition of approval, or was that just an assumption for the first building? In other words, we didn't see the wording saying that it should not include, or we just kind of assumed under the California Building Code that you have to have.
We can just put a generic condition for either building 1 or 2, any office area will include air conditioning
Okay.
per the building code.
Okay. Okay.
We got all of them, so it's a motion
I
to
think-
approve,
yeah.
subject to those amendments that
Right.
we just discussed.
Right. Oh, sorry. Anybody want to entertain a motion? Or forever hold your peace. Okay, Vice Chairman Shively moved and seconded by Commissioner Lopez. I'm so used to doing it, now I'm not doing it.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Gomez,
No.
Vice Chair Shively,
Yes.
Chair Hammond.
Yes.
The vote of 4 yes and 1 no, this motion passes.
Thank you very much. Now, before we start the second one, I'm told by one of our commissioners that she had brought some tamales in celebration. Mr. Kenneth, I guess. It's up to the commission. If you want to take a quick break and grab them, and I leave it to you. Bring them back, not to eat. We don't want to take them. If you want to grab them, bring them back. I leave it entirely to our commissioner. She was nice enough to do it, so. If you want to take a break, does that be okay for a quick recess?
Mr. Chair, if it's the commission's pleasure, you could take a, say, 5-minute break,
Right,
Yeah.
or recess, rather.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
It'll be a 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all right. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. As long as I get an automatic yes vote, you can enjoy that time.
Yeah. Where's our big approval stamp? Let's just approve.
Enjoy it. Take your time. I know. I know you are. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
So hopefully it's a good thing that I'm going second.
Yeah, right.
But my project has air conditioning, I promise you.
Yeah. Everything okay? Yeah. Did you get a tamale? Nice. Did somebody make them, or just pick them up? Yeah. Oh. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's great. Oh, no. No, I know. I don't have any skin in this game. I'm just here to present. Yeah.
Okay, we were just about ready. Oh, we're still eating.
Oh, I can eat and meat, I'm okay.
Oh, you'll be in a better mood, right? Feed me. All right. We call the Planning Commission back at 7:21, what is this? Okay, 7:21 p.m. And we're going to 7B, item 7B, specific plan amendment, 20-5180, and conditional use permit 20-05100. A proposal to, number one, amend 9.54 acres on the north side of Markham Street between Paris Boulevard and Redlands Avenue, west of the existing Penske Building, 278 West Markham Street, from business professional office to light industrial within the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan. 2, to amend the PVCCSP land use table to allow truck and vehicle storage as a conditionally permitted use in the light industrial zone. And 3, to approve a conditional use permit to facilitate the construction and operation of a proposed truck and trailer parking facility. APNs 302-110-031 and 032. Applicant Bobby Nasser, Truck Terminal Properties LLC. Requested action, adopt Resolution 21-20, recommending that the City Council adopt mitigated negative declaration 2361 and approve specific plan amendment 20-05180 and conditional use permit 20-05100 to facilitate the construction and operation of a truck and trailer parking facility based on the findings and conditions of approval. And as always, are there any recusals, ex parte contacts, or site visits? And we go from this end.
No, I have none.
Okay,
I drove by the site.
okay,
None for me.
okay.
I know of the site, I've been around the site.
Yes, I drove by the site, went around, and went back and forth on that street, yes. Okay. And we have a presentation. I think you're new, so, are you new?
You've seen me via Zoom a couple of times.
Oh, okay, okay. You
He
wanna-
has a body, though.
No, I do.
Ah,
I don't live in the computer.
okay. Bring the mic, yeah, the mic,
You want me to
all the way down.
move it down? Okay, just a bit. All right,
Okay.
I have a big sign here that says "Do not touch the mic." So,
Okay,
and
okay.
there is a parabola here, so I
Okay.
don't want to get it too close to my face. But all right. Yes, I do have a presentation for you. Tonight I'm presenting the Markham Street Truck and Trailer Yard and Guard Shack. This is on Markham Street.
Yeah.
Just a bit louder? Yeah, okay. Okay, there we go. All right. That's fine. All right, is that a little better?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I am presenting specific plan amendment 20-05180. This is one of the applications, perhaps the most important associated with this project. The specific plan amendment is actually two parts. That will be a zone change within the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan to change the current zoning from business professional office to light industrial. And the second part of that amendment will be to allow outdoor vehicle storage with the approval of a conditional use permit in the LI zone. In addition, we have the conditional use permit 20-05100, which will be required to develop and establish the outdoor truck and trailer storage facility that is proposed, and mitigated negative declaration to offset any potential impacts that may result from the project. The site is located basically on Markham Street, as we said earlier, just west of the recently built Penske building and east of Paris Boulevard. To the north of the site, there is one residential property right just north of the northwest corner of the site. And then just adjacent to that is a potential future EMWD pump station will be going in there. You can see that it's already surrounded by a number of industrial users that could potentially benefit from this excess parking. As most of the industrial uses in the city, they build without additional trailer parking most of the time to maximize the space that they have for their use. This is the view of the project looking northeast from the southwest side of the project site. And you can see the Penske building there. And then basically from the opposite corner, looking northwest. As stated, what we're doing here is changing the zoning from business professional office, which is primarily intended for like research and development, business, parks, that sort of thing. And a truck and trailer storage facility just doesn't quite fit that definition. And so a light industrial zone change was considered to be the most appropriate for the proposed use, given that the site is surrounded on the other sides by other light industrial zoning designations. The project site is also located within the March Airport overlay map, but it's located in Zone D, which is which really has no restrictions for persons per acre and no restrictions for residential developments. The project is going to ALUC on October 14th, but we've had some communication with ALUC, and they've indicated that this is mostly just a procedural issue at this point, that they don't really see a problem with this particular use within this zone, but it is required for any zone change within the airport overlay. All right, and we've got landscaping all around the property. Inside the property wouldn't be as useful, as you're really just going to have a lot of trucks kind of moving around, and it's going to be walled off on all sides. So most of that landscaping will be visible from the outside of the proposed walls. And we can go back to that in a little bit, because I know we have some particular interest in some of the landscaping there. As you can see, the project is meeting all of the required standards for lot coverage, floor area ratio, structure height, front setback, rear setback, landscaping coverage. The building on site is really just intended mostly for a guard shack and for restrooms for the tenants. Basically, anybody leasing a parking space there will have access to the restrooms, and the guard shack will be manned. I don't think 24 hours a day.
We're not sure yet.
Okay. But it will be secured regardless. If a guard is not there 24 hours a day, the building will be locked when a guard is not on site. You can see that the building has been designed for, as small as it is to be, to meet, the aesthetics that the Planning Commission wants to see in the city. So we've got some stone veneer on the outside, a little bit of stucco, and we've got some neutral colors, a sloped roof to add a little bit of visual interest. And that's pretty much it for the building itself. There really isn't a lot to it. So I do want to follow up with during the public comment period for the mitigated negative declaration, we did receive a total of 3 comments. 2 were received from agencies. One was from Riverside County Flood Control, and that was really incidental, just stating that the project would need a permit. Wasn't really commenting on the project viability itself. CARB, the California Air Resource Board, had some minor comments, which were responded to. But one of the comments that I did want to highlight was the residential property to the north commented. They didn't really have any negative comments, more questions about the project. And so in the response to comments, we were able to assure them that noise and air quality would be handled, that was already reviewed under the mitigated negative declaration. And then they did write a response to that in support of the project once they had a chance to speak with the project applicant. And with that, I'm going to conclude my comments. The project applicant, Bobby Nasir, also has a presentation for you, but I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions for you before that.
Thank you very much. And at this time, do we have any questions or comments for staff? And staff only.
Yeah, I have a question. So correct me if I'm wrong. You said there's no restrictions on having an industrial zoning near that residential building that's north of the project?
Well, technically, the business professional office zoning is an industrial zone, and that residential use, although it is a residential use, it is also zoned business professional office. So you could have, semi-industrial types of uses near it anyway. In fact, you could have something immediately next door. Also, the residence itself. So the properties are really long. I'm going to go back to that so that you can see that. So it's a little hard to tell because this is kind of a small shot here, but this property, which is so right on the northwest corner there, is approximately, I want to say about 350 feet or something like that. And the house itself is set pretty far up, closer to the street. So it's pretty far. The project applicant is going to build a taller wall along that portion of their property. So we've really considered that as part of this and wanted to make sure that that resident is as protected as they can be. Because we know noise and pollutants could be a potential issue for them.
Of course. And what specific issues did that tenant or that resident had that they wanted to address?
I think it was mostly noise, maybe light, a little bit of about the air pollutants. They wanted to know about that. And all of that has actually been, resolved through the mitigated negative declaration. For the most part, even though this is going to have a lot of trucks, they're not going to be as frequent as you would see at like an actual warehouse.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Missionary Minute. So you want to go first?
She can take it away. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Commissioner Gomez, did you have any? Pull the mic down to you. The mic. Yeah.
I can really, at this point, I don't have.
We can come back.
We can come back.
Yes, please, because I remember looking at this, but it was in regards to the residential. It's really hard to see on here, but is it a standing house? Is it a house or is it a mobile?
It's a home.
A manufactured home.
Yes.
It's a home.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've seen on Harley Knox, I've seen homes there, but I also see a lot of trucks parked there.
Yeah, I think actually just on the corner of Nance, there's actually some trucks and things parked right.
You can
directly-
you can bring the one slide before that. That's the
Yeah.
the vicinity that would show the property.
I see
There is
the-
a truck yard adjacent to that home.
There's some no truck access, aren't there?
Yeah, it's
I-
there's trucks that park.
I'm glad you went back because that was actually what I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
So there is we're trying to get a truck route established and,
Yeah.
with the city. And this is not part of that route. However, do you have, is there in place, I do see that that the driveway does accommodate like one way in, one way out type of thing. I wish we could work take into consideration that there's very limited space for trucks to go through there without it being an access road for trucks. So,
Just to address that a little bit, and I can have John step in on this a little bit too, but this particular use is going to be a little bit different in terms of the peak hour trips that you would see at most warehouses, where there's kind of a schedule, right, where, you know, a lot of trucks are arriving at or around the same time as a lot of other traffic that's happening. This is going to be a little bit more spread out, where trucks are going to kind of come and go at all times of day, almost evenly spread out, dependent on, you know, what their actual route and you know, truck traffic, you know, what their actual route is.
is it going to be like an overnight truck area to store trucks?
Yes.
So, because I know we have a lot of residents that are truck drivers.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering if this is going to be a specific place. So are they going to be able to also park their vehicles there?
Yes, I'll actually have the applicant speak to that a little bit more.
How
but
it works
they-
exactly, because I,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
not
but they
familiar.
will be able to park their vehicles basically in the spot that they're leaving, you know, with the truck and trailer.
So there's like a designated spot like that they're going to have
Yeah.
as for their use.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Jimenez, did you?
I do have a lot of questions. My husband's a truck driver.
Yeah.
And I know he moved away from an open place because of the damage the sun causes, especially when he leaves it there over the weekend. Is there any consideration to have some covered and some uncovered? I know that he pays a lot more for covered or an indoor location. All I saw here was open. I didn't
Yeah.
see any. So did you talk with the applicant about possibly having a combination?
No, and I don't think that that's a consideration at this point, but I can have the applicant speak to that a little bit more when he comes up.
So just to clarify, this is 3 different conditions, right? And in order for the third to happen, the second has to happen. And in order for the second amendment to happen, we have to approve a zone change, right?
Well, okay, let me, so the specific plan amendment is basically two parts of one action.
Okay.
Right, so that's one action. But it's a zone change and then a change to the use table that, you know, tells you what uses are actually allowed or allowed with a conditional use permit. And so right now in the LI zone, truck and vehicle storage is prohibited, but we're making it, as part of that 2-part amendment, we're making that subject to the approval of a conditional use permit, so that we can actually provide or enforce conditions on the property and have the authority to revoke if necessary. So that's one action, 2 parts, one action, and then the conditional use permit. So you're right, both of the 2 parts of the specific plan amendment would have to be approved, although you are just recommending to City Council for approval or denial at this point. And then the conditional use permit could be approved if those are approved. Obviously, if the specific plan amendment is not approved, then the conditional use permit is null and void.
Right, so
So you're
we're
correct
recommending to the city council whether to change the zone or not
Right.
change the zoning.
Yes, right.
Okay,
right.
so if we don't, those 2 are connected, so it's,
Yes.
we're recommending to the city council or not to approve the zone changing, and if that does, it's also the conditional use permit.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah, we're just packaging it together as one package for the entitlement.
Okay.
So it's the zone change, the amendment to allow it under the CUP and the CUP. It would be packaged as one package. So it could be entitled in one motion once it gets to the council. So
Right.
the Plan Commission is the recommending body in this particular case because of the SPA, because of the specific plan amendment.
so that would change with where that sign is and the trucks allowed. If we recommend to change it, then trucks would be allowed past that point, right?
It would be allowed in the light industrial zone, which is consistent if you were outside the PVCC. If you were in the light industrial zone, it would be subject to your CUP. So it kind of follows that form that we already have for the light industrial zone outside the PVC specific plan.
Okay, but this was not light industrial right now.
It's not light
No.
industrial right now,
Okay.
correct.
Okay, all right, I think that's it, but I would like to know more about, just that, the coverings, and I'll talk to the, applicant about that, and
Absolutely.
I don't think I saw how many restrooms, because there's a lot of spots there, and, you know, I have ample knowledge of the, locations, and I know, truck stops and
I
having to
know-
shower, and,
I drove truck briefly too, so I know
You
exactly
know.
what you're talking about. Yeah, I think that there will be enough. There's two restrooms. I think that there will be enough, given the dispersal of the traffic throughout the day and night.
and will they have showers, or is it just
No,
strictly?
this isn't intended to be a truck stop.
Okay.
It's really just a parking space, but there's restroom facilities because of the issues that
Yes.
you're bringing up. Yeah.
You're changing out lights or
Yeah.
doing something on your truck, and then you have to use the restroom, and
Yes.
you have to get in your car,
Yeah.
drive somewhere, or
Yeah.
move. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Commissioner Shai, please.
Number one, it will not be manned 24 hours a day.
That's undetermined at this time.
It says that it won't be manned 24 hours on the application. So I'm assuming it won't be. The other question is, if you got two restrooms that are going to be open 24 hours, how do you prevent any homeless from coming and using them?
The facility will be locked, so any tenants will have either a key or key card access to that if there's not a security guard at the location at that time.
Okay, the easterly fence is a wrought iron fence. Is that going to be changed or kept as a wrought iron fence?
Actually, the east side is currently chain link. It's going to be changed to wrought iron. That's basically in between this proposed truck yard and the Penske warehouse. And then the rest of the walls will be block.
And the northerly will be 8 foot high block.
Yeah, they're staggered a little bit. So we have the north will be 8, and then it will jump up to 10
West will
feet
be-
adjacent to that residential property. Then I believe back down to 8 feet along the west side, and then 14
have to
feet
correct
up along the front.
And then, is it intended to store trucks with cabs and their trailers?
That's
Or is it
correct. Either or.
trailers?
Either or a combination of, yes.
And then if we approve this, currently in the LI zone, truck storage is not allowed? Is that what you just said?
Currently, it is prohibited within the PVCC specific plan designation of LI, yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
That's all the questions I have for staff at this time.
No,
Well, I might bring up one when I start.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, when I went by the site, obviously, I also looked at the website for the city, for the CEQA and the other things, read the letters. One of the things, if you look at the map itself, and this is the inconsistency, we're talking about a 14-foot wall for 175 feet north, and then we drop down to 10. Should be consistent to me. And because you're talking about, you mitigated it with noise, because that residency was probably legal non-conforming property, I'm sure. But the one to the north, it can't be legal, it has to be non-conforming. But the one that's far enough away that it's not even an issue. I looked at the sound, it's only 60-some decibels, so that's not an issue. None of these are an issue. The only possible issue, what I think what we looked at, was if the trucks are queuing, that would be the issue. Now, obviously, looking at the city when they did that report, I remember the resident too, and they didn't really have an issue. But I'm concerned about the walls being consistent, because as you get a higher wall, the sound is mitigated. So why was it 14 feet and then drops to 10 feet or 8 feet? I think it's 14 for 175 foot north, so maybe that's I'm not sure why we would do that, or we're just trying to avoid the houses here.
I think the 14-foot is actually more of an aesthetic thing in the PVCC specific plan area to block the visual aspect
Yeah.
of having all those trucks and trailers
Yeah,
there.
I don't mind 14, but it's not consistently 14.
Right.
So either
but
12 or 10.
8 or 10 is what is actually necessary for the
Yeah.
noise mitigation.
Yeah, so,
So that's why it's staggered. through.
okay. So we have 8-foot screen masonry all there. Why is it not at least 10? Because I'm looking at the plans.
Yeah.
10-foot masonry wall, then we have 8. So I'm just wondering why it's different sizes. So if it's 10,
There's really no uses that would be impacted at that point.
no, I'm just wondering why it was not just 10 feet or 8 all the way across. If you have-
Mostly a cost consideration, but also the fact that it's just not necessary in terms of the noise level.
Okay. Yeah, but I guess more of the point is, why isn't it just solid 10 feet all the way across? Why go slope down? The side it's an old thing about if you have another industrial building, that's not a problem. That's standard. Some will just keep chain link. You could even, we don't want chain link, but if they wanted to, they could do that. But the idea is a block wall. I'm just talking about the consistency in terms of the height. So I was just wondering why we would do that and then drop down. You know, if the cost that much of a factor, it's just going to have to be a factor. Because if it's 10 feet across or 12 feet across or 14, which I would like,
Yeah.
but but that really talks about sound mitigation measures. So if you're going to have 8 foot, 10 to drop to 8, I'm still trying to wonder what is the explanation for why it drops.
Yeah.
You have 175 feet and then you drop to 8.
Yeah, real quickly, I can try to answer that question.
Mhm.
We were just trying to work with the applicant to figure out, trying to work with applicant in terms of costs. The noise study came back, the portion along the residential property was required to be 10 feet. The rest weren't required to be 10 feet, so we were working with the applicant to be 10 and kind of step down to 8. But it's the discretion of the planning commission.
Yeah.
If you wish to have the entire length of the back to be 10 for consistency, that's the discretion of the planning commission.
Okay, something to discuss. Yeah, I wasn't trying to beat up on it. It was just, that's one of those things I noticed real quick.
Yeah, of course. It's I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of the concerns, and I'm talking about the CEQA thing, was the something called transportation refrigeration units. Now, obviously, we're parking trucks there, assuming that they're not really going to be for that purpose. We don't know, but we're assuming they're not going to be for that purpose. In other words, you know better. They park trucks there, they unhitch them possibly, and they drive off, or they switch their cars there. And so I think that was one of the considerations, too, that was brought up. I've never heard of that because I don't drive trucks. The other consideration, my last one, it goes back to what you originally talked about. When you enter, it's a 60-foot wide entranceway, but then you have to go past the guard tower.
Mm-hmm.
What is the distance between that little section there? Because there's something in between there, median. So you go past the guard. What is the footage there between the guard tower and that little median? Because one is coming out, but going in, you got to go past the tower. So I wasn't sure about that one.
Yeah. Let me.
I'm a nitpicker for stuff.
If I may. Chairman Hammond, we requested that it be 100 feet from the entry to the gate.
No, I mean in between the guard tower and where there's a median there or some post there, or is it wide open? In other words, you see the guard tower, once you come in, you've got to go past the guard, right?
Actually, you enter the site, I believe the guard tower is set back.
Yeah, but between the guard tower, where the truck has to go through, what is the distance between that truck, the guard tower, and there's some kind of, if you look at the map. No.
You
No,
mean
we'll get
the
to-
width?
Yeah,
The,
Yeah.
the width in between the median and the.
and the guard tower.
Do you mean directly in between the median and the guard tower, or the median?
Median, the guard tower.
And then the curb before the guard tower, because there's at least 5 to 7 feet of landscaping.
No. Right between the guard tower and the median. You stop at the guard
Yeah.
tower, there's a median there. What is that distance between those two?
I believe that's about 30 feet.
Is that on the plan?
It's not labeled on the plan,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's about 30.
30 feet, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
30 feet, okay. Because it would be very tight if you did. Okay. So not further short. I wasn't sure because I didn't see it. That was the main thing. So it wasn't specified, but that's important because you got to take trucks coming in there. It's not a van. So we're really talking about, yeah. So we want to make sure it's wide enough.
And again, the fire department has reviewed this as well.
Yeah.
And so if their trucks can make it through.
Yeah,
then
yeah,
it's
we like to see it though. I don't care what they say, we want to see it.
Yeah, I
So
know.
put 30 feet on the map. Put 30 feet on it. Because we want to see 30 feet, everything in detail when it
Put it on
comes
the
to
map.
planning commission, without exception, more than even them.
Yeah.
Because this is important for us because this is the public, this is public good, and that's our motto here is to be public well, public conscience. And so if you're going to drive through there 24/7, which is what we're saying, not 5 hours, it's 24/7. So you want to make sure that guard's not always going to be there, right? So they said like there'll be 2 security people, but we're not sure. But I'm just checking, we're being very specific. There's 30 feet between that little wall and barrier. The other way should be 30 feet too, right? Coming out, exiting.
So I think that the actual drive aisle area is probably about 26 feet. But there's additional landscaping
Yeah.
between the drive aisle
Right.
and then the guard shack.
Okay.
So that would put it at between the median and then the guard shack
Right.
is about
30, okay, just want to make sure. You'd be squeezing in.
Yeah.
And they may be good drivers, they're not that good, okay?
Yeah.
I think she might, your husband might be able to do it, but you don't want that issue because that's, I'm sure it's covered, we just didn't see that designation, and I'm very particular. Okay, I think that was my, we talk about masonry, I think the stone masonry wall is towards the north side. On the west side is also masonry. Stone, okay. And the east side, obviously, wrought iron, that makes sense. And we've got a lot of landscaping that's showing on this. Surprised you haven't said anything about landscaping. No. Okay. Yes, okay. Oh, my gosh.
like those? Like those ones?
I do, I like the,
Is she okay?
Oh, yeah, that's
the
one of my
desert willow. Well, it's a truck parking. So for me, it's like, I would love to have, the tree that I prefer. However, I did look at the tree, and I guess I can discuss that in my next question.
Okay. Any more questions for staff?
Yes.
Okay.
So in regards to, I agree with the consistency of the wall. I kept looking at it and wondering if I was looking at it right, because it's so up and down. I understand cost efficiency, but consistency is nice. I believe you already answered the question regarding the covering. We have very high heat. We're in the desert region, high heat, and we have high wind. And it's gotten worse, so I like that the Commissioner Jimenez brought that up. And you already answered, we need to ask the applicant in regards to that. The desert willow is a very nice plant, is a tree, excuse me. I do see that it's a 36-inch box. Is that as big as that gets? Because if we're doing cost savings in other areas, then in these areas, there's no shade for the truck drivers at this point. And there's these trees I don't believe they're that big, so can we get a bigger tree?
So I think about the max that you would want to go with any tree
Right.
is probably about 48 inches. But it also depends on the tree type, and I'm not a landscape architect, so I don't want to speak to which ones would allow that. But the larger the tree, the harder it is for it to take when you put it in. That is something that I do know, and some trees are more or less sensitive to that. But I think that we can ask that the landscape architect allow for the largest tree that would be viable. Is that okay?
Absolutely. I think that the more mature the tree, the better. Because it's been in our experience where we have younger trees that die out with the wind in with the hot wind.
Sure.
And it's very hard to see them replaced. So instead of to avoid any gaps in the future with dead trees being taken out and not replaced, I'd rather see a more mature tree in there.
Okay.
That was the only question I had.
Okay. Mr. Shively? Vice Chairman Shively.
Kenneth, is there a restriction on the height of the light poles?
Not in this particular location. Our code only requires that in any area where there's a lot of foot traffic, you have at least 1 footlight candle, so that determines the height. But all that can get accommodated, just depends how much lumen it creates, and such type of But in this particular, there's no specific height limit. It's just that you need to provide 1 footlight of candle, I believe.
Yeah, that's per code. But is there a height restriction in the zoning code for that?
There's no specific height limit other than the 50 feet height of the land use, which is the height of the maximum height of any building.
Okay. I have no further questions for staff.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for staff at this time?
Actually, I do have one question. We are removing, how many acres? 55 acres or something like 49 acres?
9.54 acres.
9 acres from the business professional. Is there any intention to replace it in another location?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. At this time, if the applicant has a presentation, we should come forward at this time and face the music.
I'm just going to load up his presentation.
Okay. And sir, if you state your name and spell your last name for us. Oh,
Do you want to put it on slideshow? Yeah, you can do that.
yeah, I was about to say.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Bobby
Raise it,
Nasir.
raise it.
Oh, sorry. Does that work?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Bobby Nasir, state my name and spell it, you said?
Last name.
Last name, Nassir.
Okay.
So thank you for your time. I hope that I can address a lot of the questions that came up. I first wanted to start this by telling you a little bit about me and my family and what we do here. This isn't our first project locally. Oh, sorry, I realized I gotta move this for you, don't I? There we go. We're a family-run local business based in Southern California. With 25 years of just doing truck and trailer parking terminals in the area. We don't build warehouses generally. We serve areas with lots of warehouses in them. The proposed project is a 9.5 acre fully improved truck parking terminal on Markham Street. She went over that already. It will be a state-of-the-art terminal that's paved in concrete, surrounded by block wall. It will have LED lights. And maybe I can kind of answer some questions as I'm going through this. As to Mr. Shively, your question on the light pole heights, although there isn't a restriction on the light pole heights or in the city code, because we fall under the airport jurisdiction also, there is a height limit. So we're at 25 feet on these, so it's reduced from the 50 feet to 25 feet because of the airport. We are also looking to move forward with all our terminals and along that and trying to go as green as possible. In California, there is some mandates that a lot of tractors move forward by 2035 to rechargeable and green trucks. Whether it gets there or not, we want to be ready for that, so we are building the infrastructure on this site to put in electrical recharging stations for electric tractors. The terminal probably won't be full of tractors. It'll probably have more containers than tractors. We don't have a set tenant or tenants for this yet. We've just been working a while on getting the entitlements and getting through CEQA and addressing all the issues that staff had. So we're not there yet, so I can't give you 100% of answers. The one question that did come up, I heard, is security and 24-hour guard. In all of our other terminals, we do have a 24-hour guard. I can say with probably 90% assurance we will have one. We did not want to make that a requirement on the site because it doesn't economically, or the chance of it not happening, we didn't want that to be a restriction upon us. But chances are there will be someone there 24 hours. Screen from Markham Street and Paris Boulevard with block wall and landscaping that we discussed, and we can get into that in a little bit more detail. So why is there the need for these truck and trailer parking terminals? Warehouse growth across the country has grown at an unprecedented rate, not only in the city of Paris, but all over the Inland Empire. You can see, I don't need to explain anything in that area to you guys. You guys could do a lot more explaining to that with me. But what it has done, and especially starting with 18 months ago with COVID, I think we all have Amazon accounts. We all get the e-deliveries, the online deliveries. And we live off the truck drivers and the deliveries. Whether we like it or not, they really support us, and they saved us during COVID when we got deliveries to our houses. Unfortunately, the downside with a lot of this unprecedented warehouse growth is, these guys keeping up with that growth has their parking restrictions, they have not been able to grow at the same pace. And that's where we come in. A lot of times what you will see in different cities around the Inland Empire is kind of these makeshift truck parking yards, or even the residential yards that have trucks parked into them. This is where my family comes in for a solution. We do everything to code. We build a nice site with block walls, the landscaping, lighting, and everything else, whereas a lot of times, I've just picked a few random pictures around the Inland Empire, you'll sometimes see the makeshift yard that don't pay the fees, don't do the WQMPs, none of the infrastructure, the landscaping, and everything else that the Planning Commission wants to see. So this is the solution to this, where you do see out there, and obviously this is a nightmare for code enforcement. A local example of our parking solutions is on Heacock Street at the March JPA. We went through the Planning Commission at the March JPA and actually worked with the City of Paris and the City of Moreno Valley and built a terminal there. You can drive by that and see what type of a terminal we build, and it is something that the city would be proud of. Gary Gosliga is the director of the airport there. On the following page, there's a letter of recommendation from him because of all our work that we did with him over 4 years in addressing all the issues, both with City of Paris, City of Moreno Valley, and March JPA. That's just his letter of recommendation to the Planning Commission and the City of Paris. These are a couple pictures of that site, so you can see the wall on the outside and landscaping, and then you can see the inside where it's fully paved. There is what we call the dollies, the concrete dollies. If you know a little bit about trailers, they have legs that fall onto the concrete. Out here in the Inland Empire, when it gets over 100 degrees, asphalt will bury holes. We are actually going to do this site with an additional expense at fully concrete. So this will be one of the most beautiful sites in California with full concrete because of that high temperatures in the Inland Empire. Small things that I took some pictures on. The Heacock site has separate trash receptacles for the drivers and the guard shack, separate bathrooms for the drivers and the employees of the guard shack. I just want to take a second. I know it seems like it may not be a big deal. Why am I showing you a picture of a bathroom or a garbage can? Because of some of the issues that you raised there. Unfortunately, what does end up happening is if a truck driver doesn't have a trash can not too far from him or a bathroom from him or her, it ends up on the floor or in our streets. So it's important to have in these terminals the proper bathrooms, trash receptacles, and everything to purvey the image that we want for our terminals, and so that we can grow in a city and not only be the only terminal. So this will show you, we've got that small, that shack is on the inside. It's not visible from the street, but that's the trash receptacle. That is a driver bathroom. And then in that guard room, there is another bathroom for the employees on the inside. Now, something we're doing based upon staff's recommendation in the city of Paris, this is a prefabricated guard shack that you see here. Kenneth and his team, along with Chantal, wanted something a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So we are not doing a prefabricated building here. We are customizing a building along with the palette of pre-approved colors that the city of Paris likes. So we designed that and had input from city staff to kind of play around with it to make it an appeasing building if you're driving down Markham Street. The next slide talks a little bit more about the zoning. You can see this is a little bit off. The BPO zoning are about these 10 parcels that are in this one square surrounded by industrial in the gray zoning. None of those properties in the BPO zoning locally have been developed. They have been sitting undeveloped for about 50 years. And it just happens because this is all surrounded by large warehouses. So the demand for BPO zoning is not quite there. There's no residential in the area. There's no commercial in the area. It doesn't have freeway exposure where if you and I are driving by and we'll see a BPO office where we're going to pull into. This is really kind of hidden amongst all industrial, and this is what attracted my family to this, to go for this. I know that in the past, zone changes have been a sensitive thing, especially to an industrial in the city of Paris. We feel, along with staff, that this is a little bit of a different situation because it really is. It's almost like the BPO is out of place because literally everywhere across, you've got a Home Depot warehouse, you've got an Amazon warehouse, you've got a Penske warehouse, and I can't remember the tenant on the other warehouse on the other side. This next slide just gives you a bigger picture of all the industrial. There really is no residential in the area except for the one home who is my neighbor and has been for a few years. Her name is Inez. She's 94 years old. I've been into her house and met with her daughter, Adrian, who lives in Texas. We met together. She actually, after meeting with her, as Chantal mentioned, wrote a letter of recommendation to the city. She has issues right now because all the surrounding properties are empty, and she gets thieves and others that jump over her fence and come in from the other properties, and she's happy to see a block wall going up and people starting to occupy the area so that there's a little bit more, along with the lighting, security measures. Also, just to mention something, I know Chantal mentioned that her property is very long. The noise study was actually done to her property line, but not to her house. And I mentioned that because her house is something like 300 feet away, but by code, the noise study has to be done to the property line. So it's really, noise is not, in practicality, going to be any sort of an issue for her. In fact, there is like a trucking company on both sides of her running outside. If you look on Google Earth or just drive by on Nance Street, even though one of them is a non-conforming residential, it is essentially a trucking company. And then there is another truck parking terminal. Unfortunately, it's not developed in any way. So I mentioned the first point, we understand in general the aversion, but obviously we also had the same kind of issues with the March JPA, and we had discussions with council members, and some of Paris's council members are on that commission also. And once we went through that, they fully understood that, and understood that we are not changing to industrial to build a warehouse. We are actually changing to industrial to solve a big issue with warehouses in the city and to serve some of the trucking needs in the city. And it helps mitigate some of those local issues. In addition to that, there is a huge expense for the storm drain line D that is on Markham Street that we're going to extend it up. It's a 60-inch storm drain line, which is several hundreds of thousands of dollars for us to do, but the city has put that as a requirement for us to do, even though we do not connect to it for our project at all. So we are going to be doing that. In addition to that, there's also over $1 million in fees that we're going to be paying to rebuild the roads in the city of Paris, in the RBBD fee, infrastructure, local infrastructure, art fee, and all the rest. I think it came out to something approximately $1.3 million. So overall, with this property has been sitting as dirt for many, many years. I think it'll add a lot to the city. A little bit more about me and my family. We've been here in the city of Paris for several years now, and we don't plan. I'm not a massive, warehouse developer that's here to develop a box and gone tomorrow, in my corporate office in Texas. We're a local business. I drove out here. We have been working with Sabrina Chavez at Community Development, serving the seniors in the city of Paris all throughout COVID. So I just got a letter from her also to show the support that we've been around for a few years. And then the same thing, we sponsor some camps, some local camps for kids in the local areas that can't afford to go to camp. This is a really nice camp, and I'm just going to speak 20 seconds about it, because the nice thing about this camp is it's a sports camp where all you have to say is, I can't afford it. You don't have to show proof of residency, proof of citizenship, or anything. All you have to say is, I can't afford it, and the camp director gives you a week free at the camp in any sport of your choice. And so that's another thing that our company sponsors. I bring these up not to pat my own back, but just to let the Planning Commission and Council know that our family is here to stay in the City of Paris and work with both the Council and Planning Commission. On that note, I'd like to address a few things. So yes, we were going initially from the 14 feet on the wall and 100 feet of switchback on both the west and east side is actually by code. It wasn't needed for noise or any other issues, but it was by code, so we had it at 14. The plan was to go at 8 feet all the way around. When the noise study came back, because we had to change it to property line rather than Inez's house, which was 300 feet, we needed to bump it up for 10 feet. What I'd like to do here, standing in front of you guys now, is say, to prove that we're here to cooperate and work with the city, is if that is a request, I will change it from 8 feet to 10 feet. So it'll go 14 to 10 around the entire property. I want to make sure that Planning Commission knows that hopefully this is not the last time I'm going to be standing in front of you guys. It's not well, it is for the first time for you guys, but I was in front of the JPA just a few years back. And we want to make that commitment that we're a partner with the City of Paris for a long time in the future. A couple other minor things just came up because of the prior thing. The guard check, absolutely. We're in the Inland Empire. We will absolutely have air conditioning, plenty of windows, bathrooms, couple vending machines. We don't plan on seeing a huge amount of actual tractors or truck drivers here. There will be parking for their cars. They can replace it with the trailers. We kind of modeled it out that we'll have both, but since it's not leased out and we've just spent so much time and money getting through this process, we don't fully know what that future is. So we've kind of tried to design it as a hybrid that can work either way. And then one of the other things, I know the landscaping was of concern for you. What we'd like to do ultimately is whether we have, and I don't know all the terms, I'm not the best with it, is I think it's cat's claw or ivy to start to grow up the wall also, so that when someone's driving by, they actually see a lot of green rather than a wall. So that, I think I answered most of the questions, but I'm here to answer more.
Thank you very much. And at this time, are there any questions for the, I can go either way. I think none at this time. Missionary Minute, or whoever wants to.
Just a comment, quick comment, that I believe the cat's claw is included in your landscape at this point.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yes,
sorry.
I did
I'm
see it
not-
on there, and you also have the crawling rosemary, which is supposed to cover the landscape on the ground, which is also, it's drought tolerant, so it also really works really well.
Cat's claw has the yellow flowers in it, right?
I believe so,
Okay.
yes, but I did see it on there. I'll
And
leave
by
it-
the way, you did have a question about a 48 inch. So I don't want to answer that because I don't know enough, but I will work with staff, Kenneth, and our
Right.
landscape architect to go to the largest size possible.
But we've been working on, just to give you more information on that, we've been working on trying to have more shade trees that provide more shade and are also drought tolerant here, that we've seen that in Paris, they have survived and they actually thrive. And they've outgrown any other trees that I've seen, and they're easy to maintain, and they have very little, what do you call, green trash, or the leaves, the one, they're minimal maintenance. And so that specific tree that we have is
Sorry, what's the name of that tree?
it's the no, it's the Chinese elm.
Chinese elm?
Yes,
Okay, I will, yeah, please.
or the
I'm going to
Drake
make a note of that so
elm.
that we can discuss that with.
That is something that we have been requesting with our buildings. The reason why I would really appreciate that if that could be something that could be included, because what I like about the willow is that it has color to it. It has a flower and it's very aesthetically pleasing instead of just green, but we can definitely, a combination of both would be
Yeah,
wonderful.
maybe we can switch off.
Yes, and
Work with staff on that, where I'm open to
it does
work
work really well. And so, you mentioned the 10-foot, the covers. I'm going to leave it to my colleague over here. You said there's potential for this to be built into recharging stations. So that's going to be built into this.
We're sorry to cut you off there. We're building the infrastructure for electric vehicle charging. Tractors are not quite there yet.
Right.
But that's the way of the future. And we're here, I'm not here building this terminal and going to be gone next year. My family plans to run this and be here for many years. So what we're doing is we're putting in the infrastructure. The only thing that we would need to add is the above ground actual connection charger. So as soon as we're ready for that, we will. It'll already be there. The infrastructure is there. We don't need to break any ground.
Okay.
It'll already. Oh, and sorry, you did have another question on refrigerated units. Refrigerated units
Yeah,
will be
I know.
restricted here. We won't have any. We're not going to have any
Oh, okay.
refrigerated units. The other question, now I remember, sorry, is the covering.
Ah.
So because we would need to do coverings at 14 feet and the structural steel and the engineering, I wouldn't be able to do it for the project. I don't know how many tractors actually that we're gonna have overnight staying here or leaving here. It may be containers a little bit more than tractors, but that's the biggest thing, because it's not like a car where it only has to be 6 or 7 feet. It's gotta be 14 feet to accommodate the higher height, and that means we gotta go underground a lot more for the base. We did look at it, in fact, we were looking at it because we wanted to do that and then install solar panels on top
what I was
of
gonna
that
say, yeah.
to power that. The technology is not there. The costs are like 20 to 1. So it doesn't make sense yet. Our hope is that in the future it will be, and that we can put solar panels on top. So, sorry, that addresses that.
Okay. Commissioner Minute?
Did you look at other sites that are already zoned light industrial, so we would just have to do the conditions of approval?
Yeah, there isn't much that we can, that are. There are some restrictions. There was another site we looked at, but it was in the crash zone for the airport, so that was difficult. And obviously, any size, decent sized property in the city, a lot of times is getting developed by a warehouse. So this actually is nice because it mitigates some of the stuff from the local warehouses, but at the same time, you could never build a warehouse here. And we're not looking to do that.
Okay. Would you be open to 14-foot walls all the way around instead of just a 10?
would you allow me to work with staff to take a look at that? I know that's probably close to $1 million expense.
Well, I'm just counting, because just on one side, you had like 80 of them, and I know most of the places around here rent each spot for like $100 a month. So, I'm trying to calculate, because I also do business.
Yeah.
The cost
right.
justification, long-term for it to pay
A
off.
quick note on that.
Yes.
Your husband would kill you for telling me to do that because our costs would go up and then
Their costs go
their costs. Exactly right. Do you understand what I'm saying?
But he
So-
pays a lot more to have a covered one. So I think, when you look at that, he actually has an indoor one, and most of his friends pay extra to have an enclosed one with a swing door. So that's why I was kind of glad that this is mostly for containers and
Yeah,
not.
it won't be, we don't project there to be much as far as tractors, especially if it's serving a lot of the local community too. So I don't, I'm happy to commit to the 10-foot block wall, and I can look with staff to see the cost difference. I don't want to, I never will get up here and lie to you or promise something that I can't do. So allow me to work with staff. We'll look at it and run some more numbers if we can do it in a cost-effective fashion. I think you've seen by me putting my foot forward with the 10-foot that I'm trying to, but I don't want to promise that in case we can't.
At least, I don't know, maybe the staggering even, because I saw that, the middle
Oh,
is
we
not
are
so
on the
bad.
side.
But,
We-
yeah, or where it's coming in towards the front, when you're looking at forward.
From
There's-
Markham Street?
From Markham Street, there's gonna be 2 locations on the far ends that are gonna have trucks. Yeah, there's parking spaces that are like way up against the front of Markham.
So that will be 14 feet.
The front too.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
So looking from Markham, I'm gonna see
It's all going to be 14 feet.
But it says here, it doesn't
Right
say
here.
here.
yeah, the front.
The front.
Front and 100-foot of sides are 14,
Oh, okay.
100 feet, sorry.
100 feet.
100 feet back on both.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you won't see it from the street,
Yeah, that's
from
what I
Markham
wanna see.
Street. You can thank Kenneth for that.
Oh, he knew where I would go with it.
Kenneth already addressed that.
Thank you, Kenneth.
So I guess those tamales were well deserved.
Yes, yes.
He earned them.
If I can jump in real fast while we're
Hey,
talking about
Commissioner
this.
Shively, sure.
So in your presentation, you said it was going to be a block wall fence around the whole perimeter.
Yes.
Is that your intention, to do the whole perimeter? Or are you still planning on doing wrought iron on the easterly fence?
No, the only place where there isn't is between the warehouse next door on the easterly
Eastern
side
part.
and our property. But we will have the 100-foot of, if you're driving down Markham Street,
Yeah.
the 100 feet switchback from Markham to the wrought iron fence and the building will be a 14-foot high block wall. So you will not be able to see it. You won't be able to see the wrought iron, period.
The adjacent property on the eastern side is already
Yeah,
It's a warehouse.
warehouse.
Yeah, it's already a warehouse. So you're not going to,
14 feet here.
the only people that would be able to tell is that you're not going to see anything. It's that block, it's the wall from the warehouse.
My concern was that if it's wrought iron fence and it wasn't a warehouse or someone else, someone.
Yeah, correct.
You
No,
have-
but it is a
You have the
warehouse.
trailers parked up against it. There's no way to visually see someone bending the bars to get in and whatnot. But, yeah, that was my concern on that.
Sure.
So you want to, sorry, you can continue.
No, those are my 2, thank you.
Okay. Okay, yeah, and I think we've,
You have another one. Go ahead.
okay, go ahead.
I forgot what it was. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I think it's pretty much been covered, and I think 10 feet is probably, is reasonable. I know the cost of those things, so it could be astronomical.
Yeah.
Standard things, if you have a warehouse, is throughout the city, the old thing was that you had a chain link, if it's adjoining a property. We don't want to go those days, but
No.
technically, if you wanted to. But wrought iron, 8 feet? I think it's 8 feet, or 14.
I don't know.
I think it's 8 feet for the wrought iron.
I think it was 8 feet for
Yeah,
wrought iron.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what
It's because that warehouse
Yeah,
is
yeah.
so close to it.
Yeah, I
There's
know.
no,
Yeah, I'm used to it.
nobody sees that.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the main thing. To me, it's just the wall. And I think all the other issues, if you
Yeah,
look
no.
at the CEQA and look at the environmental, some of the letters and questions, some of these things are were issues, but not really, they were addressed.
They were all addressed,
yeah.
along with, the biggest one for me, other than the agencies, was the neighbor, and she is all smiles and wrote a letter to Chantal for
Okay.
that. So that's part of the stuff. And we've got 14 feet in front and 100 feet on each side, so that should cover it.
Okay, I'm good. Any more questions for the applicant? You sure? Okay, thank you very much. And we're going to do the formality. We're going to open up public comment at this time, and if anyone would like to address the commission on this item alone, is welcome to come forward, or Zoom. I can't imagine, but it's a possibility that somebody's on Zoom. Ryan's like, forget it. Nobody on Zoom, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. At this time, the public comment portion will be closed, and we will close the public hearing and move on to discussion with the Planning Commission. Whoever wants to go first. How about- Okay.
First off, I just want to say thank you for your transparency with this project. You really gave up a lot of information, and it looks like you're really willing to work with us with this project. And also, I appreciate the fact that you're communicating with your neighbor about the issues, because I know it is a huge project within the vicinity of her house. So, of course, the communication is super important. And the issues that Commissioner Gomez brought up with the plants, I think that's a serious issue. If we could really move forward with getting the largest possible plants, trees in that project, and the increase of the wall, I feel like it would make a huge difference. That'll be it.
Okay.
So we are doing two things here. One is we're doing a zone change, and two, we're doing,
Amendment.
excuse me, amendment. And two, if this is approved, we're allowing vehicle trucks parking that is not part of the conditions of approval, or it's a conditional use permit to do that. One, I always have an issue with changing business professional to light industrial zone. Again, I know it's an area that's been sitting there for a long time. One, that area could potentially one day serve the northeast side of Paris when it does get, it already has a lot of rooftops in that area. If it ever gets more, this could potentially be the area to serve it. It's a large area that can actually have and use grocery stores, food service, restaurants, stuff like that could be there. So I fully can't really support the zone change on this, and as well, even if we do the zone change, changing it and allowing a large amount of truck parking to do it. I know he'll, if this is approved, he'll do a good job in doing what he says he does. He seems like a very honest person, and I believe he'll do it. But all in all, I think changing it from business professional to light industrial, there's other things that could possibly be done in that area.
Whoever wants to go.
So I agree with being hesitant to make changes to our zoning area, especially an area that doesn't have access to shopping spaces. But I do consider the fact that we have an issue with trucks parking, as was mentioned in the presentation. And I would like the public to understand, and on my behalf, the public to understand, those who watch this now and will watch it in the future, is that, because I can already see the comments and the concerns of, pollution and idling and being in a truck area like that, and bringing pollution to the area. However, we have a need for such a place. Having this in mind, I would like the code enforcement to pay more attention in making sure that these trucks are mitigated and they do use the areas that are appropriate for truck parking and container parking. And if we have something that supports putting that into place and assisting with not allowing the trucks to go into residential areas, park in residential areas. But we also need to provide an area for our residential truckers, drivers. It definitely serves a purpose. And I was listening to a report this morning, just this morning, on NPR in regards to Inland Empire pollution, air pollution. And it's the area that we live in, and most of our pollution comes from the outside that gets blown into the Inland Empire. And the Empire is a huge area, with our county extending from all the way from the corners of Ontario all the way down to Mecca. I believe that's the city, the little small town. And I've driven all the way out there when I worked for the county. It's a long drive. However, we have to understand that this is what we have to work with at this point. And I want our residents to understand that having this area, having designated areas for trucks to park, and serving the need in the community is something that we need to strive for in order to work with code enforcement to be able to make sure that it's being used. I do see other large plots of land in this area. If you get an aerial view, there are many trucks already parked in that area, and I don't believe that's up to code. I don't believe it's up to code, because as the pictures represented in the PowerPoint of the applicant, there's a lot of trucks and containers parked on large pieces of land within residential areas, and also the northern part of Paris and the southern part of Paris. And they're parked there. They hide them very well, but we can still see them. They do put up 14-foot walls, and I've seen it. So I hope that code enforcement can definitely help with making sure that they are either meeting code or, they are being, it's being adjusted to be to code. Thank you for working with us on the recommendations. And we look forward to other applicants doing the same, because we care about our town. And we know that our town is attracting a lot of business. We also want our business owners to understand that we will set a standard for our town. And that's it for me. Thank you.
And Commissioner Minute?
I also am very hesitant with the zone change. I feel like it's a high need area. I also think it brings up an issue that we have, because if this is mostly going to be used for containers and not trucks, are we having an issue with companies not using the space they need? Or are they building buildings too big and not having enough space for trucks? So I think it's bringing to light maybe another issue that we have instead of just a need. If it was just for tractors, or for tractors and trailers instead of mostly trailers, it would be reasonable, because now a trucker can have 4 or 5 trailers, take them, dump them, and not be really in the area that it's at. I know a lot of those buildings are empty, and I understand the restrictions where I think there would be a better site for it, where there would be an area with a more condensed area with warehouses already there, instead of a location where there's a couple that are empty and we don't know who's going to take over. We don't know who's going to move in. We don't know how many trucks they're going to have. And I understand it's a need, but let's really look at where that need is coming from. Is it infrastructure? Is it structural? Where is this need coming from? And is it the best area for it? With rezoning, if something happens down the line, now we've rezoned and a warehouse can get built there, potentially, because now the rezoning has taken place. And it's a very hard decision, because the applicant is very honest, does a lot for community. So he's vested in our community, and that's very transparent, and he's willing to work with us. I just don't think this is the best location for this type of business. Especially we're running out of business professional in the area. Industries go through changes, ups and downs, and we don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, it's been sitting vacant for 50 years. But again, 50 years ago, all those warehouses weren't around either. So we really don't know where we're gonna be a few years from now. So I'm having a really hard time coming to a decision with this one.
If I can add to that as well, this is one of the zones through the airport zone that will allow the higher occupancy in the zone. If we just go right zone over, then we're limited to less than 50 occupants per acre. So this is one zone that will allow that to occur if we can continue to have that as a business professional zone. I agree totally with what you said.
Okay. Well, not at this time, no. We'd have to reopen. Do you want to do that? You want to reopen public hearing? Let's be consensus.
Whatever everybody wants to do.
For him to talk, I mean. Yeah. We can reopen the public hearing?
If that's something that the commission would like to do, that's
Yeah.
something certainly can be
Yeah.
entertained. Obviously, I provide my usual warning of we don't want to do that too much.
Yeah, okay. It's up to you guys, we can just go on if you. Okay, okay. Okay, anyway, lastly, and I know, I'm gonna give you the reasons why I'm completely in favor. Not to mention, this is what the city wants. I can tell you this is what the city wants. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. You fill in the blanks. Number one, it's a CUP. That gives us, the uses of that property means that we control that usage. If there's things that happen, drunks, if there are things like that, people come on there homeless, we have control of that because we're the planning commission. Number two, the reason why you vote yes is because if residential park in my area, I'm sick of trucks parking on the street. And they're gonna park there until you start approving things like this. So they're gonna park in your residential areas, you're gonna see 30,000 times more of that if you don't start looking at where can you do this. I hesitate to change zoning, but this is so far inland, it's away from Paris Boulevard. I'm not gonna talk about the Amazon issue we did 3 years ago, but the idea is if it's on Paris Boulevard, I'm much more limited. Much more difficult, much less like less than 1% chance of me doing that. But this is several feet away from Paris Boulevard, which is your key. There are commercial areas around Paris Boulevard and Ramona that is non-negotiable. There are areas by Lake Paris, non-negotiable. There are other areas down Paris Boulevard, non-negotiable, but this is off B. Second, if you don't have truck terminals, they're gonna park on the street. The reality is, if you don't do this, what's the alternative? There is no alternative. So it's gonna be community, and the communities, if you have HO, they're gonna scream because this is not going away. This kind of e-commerce is not going to go away soon. One of the reasons is people want to call up Amazon, pick up the package, and they don't want to deal with stores. So you will deal with parking vehicles, you will deal with trucks. So either this level or the council level, okay? But it's going to be dealt with. And the reason why the key is getting a developer, an applicant that is consistent, has good quality product, does not allow it to become just a junk hole with weeds. Well, that's the key, I think, to me. And I agree with everything you said. I'm just saying the need is so great, there's no other place. The other things are going to happen. The cat is out of the bag in terms of warehouses. So any people that come in and complain about commission, those days are over. Okay, you're going to see them, and they're not really going to be interested in all this comment. They're going to do it. So you're going to see more plants, you're going to see more buildings, you're going to see more e-commerce because it draws in revenue. Okay, look at the revenue from Wayfair, and that says it enough. Okay, okay. So it's kind of a balancing act. You've already got the cat out of the bag. Where do these trucks park? Well, where else in the city of Paris are you going to park? There's a Union 76. I drive around Paris a lot. Over there, on the other side of the freeway, the Union 76. They kind of truck park there, but that's just like the 76, and then there's the truck lot. They park their trucks there. Okay, they got a hotel that still hasn't opened, but that's county side, but that's probably the only other place in this immediate area. to keep them from parking in residential, because what they'll do is they'll unhitch them and park their trucks on the street. And they'll park their trucks in the street in neighborhoods where I live. Okay, so it's like, what are you supposed to do with that? Well, if someone has an opportunity to park there, that kind of takes that away and makes code enforcement. Do we depend on code enforcement? So it kind of takes away from code enforcement, who may be up to their neck with stuff in the city, and puts it on the owners. Well, now we have a place for you to park. Now what's the excuse? So if you're parking on the street, we need some citations if they're in residential areas. I know the HOAs will go crazy, right? But if you don't, like us, they're going to park on the street and no one's going to stop them. I would rather have a place designated that's well kept, well maintained, that's way away from Paris Boulevard, and that's the key for me. It's not on Paris Boulevard. Amazon's to the south, got trucks in and out of there all the time. Okay, so then right next to Penske, trucks in and out of there all the time. Next door to them might be another warehouse and another warehouse. Now, Paris Boulevard, we're going to have an argument. Okay? But next to them, there's those properties that are going to be warehouses. Even those properties north of the houses, legal non-conforming. How long are they going to put up with it? Okay? I'm not sure why they're even there, because their property value is going to go in the sink. Okay? Because you got warehouses around you, you ain't getting nothing. Okay? So the thing is, I'm just being real now. The reality is, we may be tired of it. The problem is there's no other place, and it's an industrial area. You got to go BPO because nothing is going to be built there. Because it's too far away from the main road. So you'd have to have a small, and that much square footage and that much property area to have something like that. A business park would be possible, but they're just not building them, and it doesn't look like in the foreseeable future. So where are you going to park the trucks? That's my real question. So it's if you got someone that's reputable, that someone's been very, very open and honest with us, and has a design that meets our standards, because we have very high standards. Really were set a while back. This isn't current. We've had these standards for the last 6, 7 years. We've been raising the bar for a long time. So otherwise, in the past, you just put up a white building, we were gone. Now, we demand from our planners that you have some more architectural thing. That's from previous planning commission. Okay. So now we're just seeing the fruits of that. So I'm just saying that as it's presented as it is now, I don't have a problem. Obviously, one of the issues that I had was if you had queuing on the street. And if you have queuing on the street, that becomes an issue because now you have trucks sitting there. But if it's 24/7 and they're in and out, and it's a little bit different mindset, that's it. Security, we do need security. Obviously, you need security because if you have nobody there, there's nothing to stop people from just going in. So you need security. But I think, it's not that I don't agree with this stuff, I just think that it's one of those needs that I think the city has demanded, that is going to demand, and I'll just leave that alone, that you have parking for these vehicles, and we just want to get it off residential streets. So if you don't have it, they're going to park on the street by necessity. If you don't have a place in the residential community, you're going to park it just about everywhere you can get. So I think that's one of the reasons why I appreciate what was said tonight. And I'm not one to change zones, but this is pretty much an easy one. And I don't really have a problem. The design is the guardhouse, okay? But landscaping, trees like that, so it's not so visible. Anyway, having said that, is there any other comments? Now that I've opened up a whole can.
So there's still plenty of other places around the city to locate a suitable, like, industrial place that you can park your trucks at. If it does go for it, I would hope that if the applicant is intended to have actual truck parking and not trailer parking, maybe he can increase the amount of vehicle parking in the front to be able to, so that the truck drivers can swap vehicles out, leave his vehicle there during the day and go get his vehicle and come out. If that's the approval that if it is approved, I hope he can look at that to accommodate that. But again, like I said, there's many areas around town that could be more suitable for this application.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I just think that pretty much everything is booked up around the city. If you look at the zoning, it's done. There's nobody willing to do this type of thing unless you were willing to give up money on a warehouse. reality is they're not going to give up a warehouse versus this, because there's mucho dollars to be made in warehouses and e-commerce. Just ask Amazon. Just ask Home Depot, who has, what, 3 or 4, and they would like to be, well, probably 10 if they could get their hands on it. So I'm just talking, the reality of it is, yeah, but getting them to change it to parking versus a warehouse, you got a maybe 1% chance to do that. And not to mention the need for multifamily housing, which is going to be a major issue in this city pretty soon. So that's another issue of having that adjoining thing with this. So down south, you're going to have a problem of promoter going south. And unless you're around the airport, and that's pretty much booked up. So you really kind of got this area. You know, the rider thing is done with IDS. These things are done on the outside. You have 1 million square foot warehouse. I just figure, where are you going to do it? Because it's already booked almost every inch. This side, they're not really building north of market. I'm just talking about the reality of it. So if you look at the money that these warehouses have, it's going to be the change to parking. Good luck. It's good luck. So, it's hard, but it's just one of those few spots that I don't have a problem with in that area. And if it wasn't that area, I would have a problem, but it's so far away from Parish Boulevard. And it's light industrial all around. It's kind of hard. But anyway, I'm done. Anybody else? Okay. And with that, we discussed that to death. Good discussion. And with that, I've got things to add here. We have a motion for this one. Was there any amendments?
It's to increase the fence to
Increase the fencing from
10 feet.
10 feet all around the north side, all around, okay.
All around,
Okay.
all around except.
And
for
you still have that
14
14 feet in the front, okay.
And
And he's
100 on
gonna
the
work with
side.
staff on the trees.
And staff on the trees, not just trees.
Larger
Yeah.
box trees.
Larger box tree, 48 inch, wow.
For some,
Or some. Okay, wow. Okay, 48 inch,
I think they got it.
48 inch and then 10
Chinese
feet.
elk.
Is there anything?
Call me.
No?
Yeah, I think the Chinese elm and the willow tree, and I believe
The cat.
I-
Claw and the
I-
rose.
I think those are already on the plans.
Cat,
And then just want to clarify, 10 feet along the west and
south.
south.
No, north.
North, and then on the east, because there's a building there, you're okay with the wrought iron
Right,
because there will be landscaping.
Yeah. Mhm. Did I miss something?
I think you got it all.
Okay. Okay. Wow, I can't do it. Commissioner Lopez moved.
I don't get to vote.
Hmm?
I get to vote.
Didn't come up?
Yeah, okay.
There
we're
it
good.
goes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Gomez seconded. Okay, seconded.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Mhm.
I wanted to clarify the motion. Is that a motion to,
With the amendments.
with the amendments, a motion to adopt Resolution 21-20,
Okay.
recommending that the city council adopt
Wanna read
MND
the whole thing?
2361 and approve
Yeah.
specific plan amendment 20-05180 and conditional use permit 20-05100 to facilitate the construction and operation of a truck and trailer parking facility based on the findings and the conditions of approval. So I want to be clear that that's a motion to approve or adopt that resolution.
Yeah, I was trying to keep from reading it, but okay.
You have to read it.
I mean, I didn't want to, yeah,
So
okay.
I just want to be clear, Commissioner Lopez, is that your motion with the amendments, obviously?
Yeah.
And then
Yes, that is
Commissioner,
my motion.
is that Commissioner Lopez, or I'm sorry, Gomez, do you concur with that? Okay, great.
Yes.
And the amendments, which I don't need to, okay.
And the amendments included and
Okay.
everything, right?
Oh, okay, Ryan.
Commissioner Jimenez,
No.
Commissioner Lopez,
No.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shively,
No,
Chairman Hammond.
Yes.
With a vote of 2 yes and 3 no, this motion is declined.
At this point, Chair, procedurally, the motion to recommend has failed,
Yeah.
so the commission can entertain
Second.
other
another-
motions or on this item as well.
Well, they want it on a whole different side of town, so what are we gonna do?
If you had counter motions or other motions that you want to be, this would be the time for this project.
I'm sorry.
If they had another motion on this project, it would be the time.
No, someone can counter motion.
Yeah, that's what,
Do you mean a motion to reconsider?
yeah.
So in order to do a motion to reconsider, it would have to be someone that,
Approved.
the prevailing party, basically. So the ones that voted no would have
Right.
to
Right,
make a motion to reconsider, and then we would
right.
entertain the motion again.
Oh, look at me. Okay.
The commission may also entertain a motion to continue or to, I guess, ultimately. Oh, one motion that the commission could entertain as well as a motion to not recommend this item to the city council as well.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
It would be a motion to, instead of the resolution would have to be revised, obviously, but it would have to be a motion to not the resolution would be revised to not recommend the adoption of the MND, the SPA, the specific plan amendment, and the conditional use permit as well. So you would be recommending to the city council that they deny those items as well. And then the council would take it up, potentially.
So the motion would actually go straight to the council instead of us.
Right, so the reason why it's before the planning commission is that in order to make the SPA, to prove the specific plan amendment, the planning commission would needs to provide recommendation to the city council, basically. So what they're seeking right now is a recommendation to the city council. And the reason why everything's packaged together is because of the amendment, the specific plan amendment. So what the commission could do is to vote, or rather direct staff to revise the resolution to not recommend this item to the city council. At that point, the city council could potentially take it up, basically. And with your recommending that they deny it.
So then at that point, we're leaving it up to city council.
Essentially, yes.
So if we don't vote to not recommend, it does not go to city council?
Well, if the item would just, the commission would have to act on the item at somehow in order to proceed. So. So either way, if you recommend denial to the city council, the council will take it up. On the other hand, let's say, for example, the commission has final say on this, and the council or rather, the commission decides to deny the project, and the commission has the final say, that's appealable to the city council as well. So, but that's not the case here.
We can also make a motion for continuance.
Correct. And I understand staff would, if that were the case, staff would want a date certain.
Yes, if you want to continue it, then you would probably ask staff for any additional information that you would like to hear for the next meeting that would further clarify information you need, or I think otherwise the information is available before you should make a decision.
Commissioners, at this time, I think my decision is final. If you guys think that you can be, your opinions can be swayed. I think we can, if you want to see something different or see something, the applicant provide more, I think we can request a continuance, but at this time, I think my decision is final.
Mine is final as well.
Mine as well.
Yeah, then you'd have to make a recommendation that it not go to the city council, but that you deny the project. Because it's either continuance or you would recommend that it's denied, and it would still go to council. So, but that has to come from the three that, what do you guys?
So someone would have to make a motion
Yeah.
to recommend denial, and then a second, and then you would vote on it.
And they would know why the denial was. Or do we have to elaborate on why or what our reasons
You would
were
have to
for denial?
elaborate going through the paces of why, under the resolution, basically.
Okay.
So one way to do it would also be to, I guess, provide a motion to recommend denial and then provide staff direction to return to the commission with an actual resolution to adopt that contains those findings that the commission would elaborate on why it is recommending denial. Staff has indicated that they would also, one way to do it would be to recommend denial with your feedback in terms of what the reasons for denial, and then staff can create a resolution after that which can be signed without going to a second meeting.
Well, can we elaborate now what our reasons are and see if there is a resolution that would be possible?
That's what we're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, so you would make a motion to deny or recommend denial, and then elaborate on the reasons there, and then staff would incorporate that into the resolution.
Yeah, and I think we got some of that feedback for your reasoning already in your discussion. You can just elaborate a little further. Like, there's land use that you believe is available. The zoning is
So is that an option? We're looking at an alternate location or?
no, because there's no control over another location. And there's also the question that Hammond raised, that, even though there's light industrial zone, whether someone will actually go pursue and proceed forward with a truck terminal. So those are separate issues. You're either going to just recommend it now based on the surrounding situation, or you're going to approve, which we've already made that decision that
Right.
there isn't enough votes for that.
It's essentially, if you vote no and it goes to the council, they're going to want specific reasons why you vote. We voted no, not to bring up the other project, just south of there, but we had to be very specific because they're going to want to know one way or the other. They want to know why, because you can't, they want specific reasons. And it's not good, it's okay, but you're going to want to give them specific reasons as to why. So it helps staff out. The staff's the one going to have to make the presentation, and you want to be specific. Well, for this reason, blah, blah, blah. For this reason, blah. It makes it easier for staff. It's not so much procedure, it's just, they've got to sit for the five here that are
Right.
going to ask
Right.
questions.
And also you would have to, essentially, one of the things we would have to go through is one of the findings can't be met as well. That's the reason for recommending denial as well. So if you can elaborate on those issues as well, then that's something that that'll give staff guidance on how to draft the resolution, recommending denial. And then at which point, as Chair Hammond stated, it would, give further information to the council.
So we have to make a motion.
Correct. You'd have to make a motion to, I guess,
I thought the motion was
adopt the
already- I thought the
resolution
motion
with
was already
the changes to recommend denial, and then elaborate on the issues.
So it just did not pass. Now we need to make a motion to.
Correct.
we just voted-
Simply voting to approve something and having that motion not, or basically fail, it doesn't move anything in the project. It just means that the motion to approve failed.
Okay,
So
With
which
the
means that
recommendation for
it's still
approval.
before you, and you still have to do something with it.
okay.
Yeah.
So let me make a motion for denial for this project.
How come it's not coming up on his? Oh, wait a
He
minute.
has to go to, on the floor.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I'll make a motion for denial for the reason being that, one, this is the business professional zone. And we're limited to the amount of square acreage for business professional zone. There's other areas around the location that potentially could be more suitable or just as suitable as this location. There is a need for business professional and shopping and stuff in the northeast corner of Paris. And I think any area as we currently have as business professional, it should be protected to be able to provide those services needed for that corridor of Paris.
So to clarify the motion, the motion is to, I guess, adopt the resolution, but modifying it to recommend denial based upon the discussion you just had, based upon the reasons you just stated.
Yep.
So now that motion would require a second.
We have a second from Commissioner Lopez.
Vice Chair Shadid moved and seconded by Commissioner Lopez. I think I got it.
Yes. You got it.
When things don't go the way it goes, it's good.
Yeah, okay.
So this
So a yes
vote
is
now is to,
To recommend denial.
okay,
But mechanically, it's what I said before. Mechanically, that's what we're doing.
okay.
Just to confirm, to recommend denial, you have to vote yes. Is that correct?
Correct.
No.
No.
Yes, denial
Yes.
is yes.
To recommend denial, to approve the resolution
Opposite.
and
Or
amend it
denial.
to recommend denial, you have to vote yes.
It's opposites, Dave.
Correct. Yes. Got it.
Okay.
Yes.
Just so that I know which way I'm voting.
Yeah.
We know.
Okay.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes?
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Gomez,
No.
Vice Chair Shively,
Yes.
Chair Hammond.
Yeah.
The vote of 3 yes and 2 no, this motion passes.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any business? I don't believe we have any business items. Okay. And at this time, wow, getting late. Is there any, we open up public comments for anyone wishing to discuss, well, I have to just say it, discuss any issues not necessarily related to any of the agenda items is welcome to come up at this time, or if they're on Zoom. I just say that for the sake of saying it. Okay.
The one that you don't?
Well, there's no way to know. Seeing that there are no public comments, we move on to commissioner members' announcements or reports, if there are any. Whoever wants to go first.
Oh. Announcements? Is this, well, if I want to direct something to code enforcement, to court enforcement or planning, this is where I do, okay. All right, I'm just making sure because we're all learning a new process here. Okay, so there's always a first for everything. It's definitely a first for me today. I wanted to ask staff if there was a better way to circulate the Paris paper. I don't get the Paris paper. Can I sign up to get it mailed to me, or does everyone have to come to the city office to get it? Is there a way we can get that?
Yes, I can answer that later, but you could be put on the email mailing list. You're talking about
The newsletter,
yes, you could be added onto the email list.
there's an email list for it?
Yes, we can add you to that.
What about other residents?
Hey, Kenneth, I thought there was a mailer. It's either quarterly or something like that.
Yeah, let me look into that. I'm sorry, I'm not involved in that.
Because I've had inquiries about how do I know what kind of plans are, what kind of applications are coming in. And I know for certain applications, we have to put it out and circulate it in the city or certain areas that it will impact, and I know that that is done by the newsletter. Right. And so we would like to know how the residents who would like to get that information can sign up for that.
Isn't there a new information desk guy that came on our email, information desk? So is that guy in charge of it now?
Yes, he would be of a good assistance in figuring out that question out.
What's his name? Oh, gosh.
Who?
Jeez. Give me a second.
Considering our vote today,
I don't know where the guy's.
there are several pieces of land in that northern part of Paris that I would like the code enforcement to consider looking into. Because if we are this adamant about parking in that area, then if it's not up to code, something needs to be done about it. Because it is contributing to, well, first of all, it's being done without permission. I hate to use strong words, but it's being done without permission. In other words, we're illegal. It's all in that area, northern east side of Paris, and it's also in the northern Paris, but closer down to Ryder as well, that I can see from my daily commute. So if code enforcement can note that and look into that, that would be wonderful. And I'd like us to consider, I know that, I don't know if there's a way to move it or to change it, but we're approving certain buildings, we're approving warehouses for industrial use, and some of them are empty and are starting to cause an issue with graffiti, loitering, transients, and I can't have that. I'm sorry, but it's starting to get to the point where it's, yes, we need to approve it. It's in that certain zone. We need to listen to the application. That's great, but if we're getting builders coming in and we're not holding them to keeping those properties, either fill them up or clean them up. I think that's something that we need to work on as well, and it's all part of enforcement. Down Ryder, that building, the brand new building, south of Ryder, someone knocked over, and I wouldn't doubt it was a trailer, knocked over a sign, and that sign has been down and hunched over for months now. Why hasn't it been fixed when it's 48 hours to get it fixed? The more I learn, the more I'm starting to be able to voice my opinion, not just for myself, but for the residents, and this is why we're here today. So I really like us to be able to get something going and really establish, be assertive with the applicants and with the building owners and occupants who are in our city. And that's it for me.
Okay, Commissioner.
So I had a question or a concern about the upkeeping of the on and off ramps. I don't know if is that Caltrans or the city of Paris that's in charge of that?
RCTC, some of it's Caltrans.
So so my question is,
Caltrans,
who do we
forgive
have to go to make sure that the on and off ramps are well kept? Because there's a lot of trash, there's a lot of weeds, dried grass, it's a huge concern because that's the first thing people see coming into the city. You know, coming in, they go into the on ramp, and yeah. So if we could really enforce upkeeping those areas, I would really appreciate it. I don't know if we can, or you said it's RCTC or yeah. Yes. Yeah, if there's anything we can do about that, I would really appreciate it. And I just want to say, I just want to congratulate Team Paris because on Monday they had the Mayor's Cup over there in Rancho del Sol golf course. Paris won second place. So, and that's all.
Missionary Minute.
I just wanted to comment that I went out to lunch with a couple of friends last week, and they were really impressed. They hadn't been anywhere south of Ramona. So when we headed down Paris and they saw the new developments and the new colors, they were very, very impressed. And one of them says that they're constantly hearing about all the great things Paris is doing. And she wasn't really able to experience it because she just goes to Ramona and that's it. But that day when she actually went further south, she was very, very impressed. And, you know, this was us for the color scheme, so felt really good. I did want to bring up, is there a way to analyze truck parking? And I know I'm very sensitive to this because there's been implementation to keep drivers safe. So now there's a log that they have that's a digital computer that's plugged into their trucks for driving time, idle time, all these things. So sometimes they don't make it home within their work hours. So I think that might be part of the reason that they may be parking at different places, because once they're out, there can be a very serious ticket, and if anything happens, there can be very serious consequences for them. But the same warehouse that you brought up, again, I've noticed that they have storage up front. So I think when we are approving spec buildings, it's really hard to analyze whether they have enough parking spaces for the company that's going to come in and take over, which is like what I also think is happening. They look at a building, oh, it's perfect, it's a perfect size, but they don't look at the available parking spots for their trailers. And that's why we're needing parking for trailers and not necessarily for the big rigs with the trailers. So is there a way to analyze how many trailers companies are using, or analyze it that way, or really try to get to the what the problem is, or have a limit of how many spaces each company needs? I'm trying to like figure out, backtrack to where the issue is. Like ballpark, like let's say, you know, you have 1,000 square foot building, you need 5 spaces. If you have a warehouse that's 20,000 square feet, how many spaces do they really use? And I know it depends on the type of usage, but we can kind of get a ballpark idea, or always just have the high expectations that we always have and say, okay, this is ballpark, we're going to go with the highest. If you have a building this size, we want this many spaces for trailer parking. Don't know if that's something that we can possibly look at some point. It is super cold. I thought it was me. So that was it for me, but Kenneth, I really wanted to commend, you know, when they said the comment that you knew where I was going to go with it with the 14, but you know what we're kind of looking for, you know what we're expecting, what our high expectations are for the city that we live in and we're proud to live in. Thank you.
And Commissioner Shively.
First, we again congratulate Kenneth Fung for his promotion. Well-deserved. And again, I think, continuing on with Commissioner Jimenez's thought, it might be a factor that, you know, they're getting so many trailers, they're emptying them, but they're not getting the empty ones off the lot. So I think that might be an issue. I do see that there is a need for a truck parking or a trailer parking spot in the city. I think it'll be very beneficial to satisfy the issues of truck parking on the streets in places where they're not supposed to, in empty lots and stuff. There is a need for it, and we'll find one. That's all I got.
You know, yeah, once again, just to not only thank Ryan for doing the double duty today, he's probably, the commission again, and Kenneth, obviously, I've known Kenneth quite a while, so he's going up the chain. Yeah, I think that's about, for me, we have a commission that's very involved. It's good. You don't always have to agree with everything. That's fine. You know, you're not always going to agree. Just make sure that if you don't, make sure you have some reasons, because you want to make sure you always help staff, and you want to make sure it's beneficial. So one of the things we're looking at, I have to commend on Ethernac, the graffiti was taken off the wall. I don't know who did it, but it was taken off the wall, because I'm a Winco nut, okay? It was that, and Winco. They live at Winco. So that was taken off, but I think I'm going to make the suggestion, and we really need to have it done. Number one, we need to have code enforcement here and make a presentation. All this is nice for planning, but planning is going to go one ear and out the other. Code enforcement does it or doesn't do it, so they can explain that we have 6 people. 7 people, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. You start asking questions about when we start having these trucks, and the reason is you have almost 300% increase in this warehouse. They're going to park on the streets. So eventually you're going to have to give them these spots, guys. But the point is, you're going to have code enforcement, not only that, but to keep them off the truck routes. The truck routes are designated, and if they start doing that, who's going to enforce that? It's going to be the sheriffs. They're not going to do it. It's going to be code enforcement really dealing with parking and lots that have weeds and things that they're not doing. Graffiti's been along Parish Boulevard, like the car wash. I can't believe that it looks like that, and anybody would let that go by on Parish Boulevard. They just had a field day. Now they're marking up almost everything. Okay, so that's a code enforcement issue. Are they overstaffed? Or well, we need that quickly. Also, the landscape management district, I talked about that medium. They should have enough time to prepare that. We probably need that by the next time or the time after that. They need to come to us and say the medians, who controls what? That 16 feet for that parkway, things like that. You go along Paris, back to that car wash in the areas. It's nothing but dirt. Then you go down the street, the warehouse is beautiful. Then you go to another place, it's dirt and weeds. You go to another place, it's inconsistent to the city. And so those are the kind of things, when we approve these projects, industrials tend to keep it up because they have it's when we approve those smaller ones, can they keep it up, can they maintain it? So we just need to know LMD, what that's about. That's a good discussion. We need that soon. Because the housing element's coming up pretty soon. We're going to have these other issues. We're going to have these demands, and then one of the things is aesthetics. So if you go down Paris, that's what you're going to see. If you get off the freeway, you're going to see that. And so we would need just code enforcement alone to start with. They got the time. We need to see them. And they can explain who they are. Those, we've had housing issues where they want to tear a house down. They've come on that issue. But not just those issues about where you have weeds in front of a house. I think it would help out in terms of graffiti. It would help out in terms of understanding the manpower, what's the manpower? Person power, and what they have there. So I think that would be beneficial, to make a particular date for that. Maybe not next time, but the time after that. They will come out. I've been to their office and showed them pictures of graffiti on my own with my iPad. I shouldn't have to do that. But I went there and said, hey, there it is, and who's responsible, and they did this. So you start finding out, it's RCTC, it's the railway, and the Metrolink people, they should know that. Okay, so we have residents. This is a residential issue of the city, all 80,000 we're representing them. They would be saying it if they could be here, we have to say it for them. So we see it, they see it, right? So vacant properties don't get graffiti today because people seem to have a lot of time on their hands. So that would be my recommendation, code enforcement immediately possible. And I know you're going to talk about the 29th and multifamily, but that's one of the top things. The LMD district thing is probably second. So we need to know since nobody seems to know that, that's not something that should be happening in Paris. There should be answers. You don't know who controls that parkway throughout the city? That's something that I would have answered in LA. I wouldn't have that task. I wouldn't have to ever say that to me as a city employee in LA, but we have to say it here. So that's not excusable. Those two things that were my only recommendation. Okay, so that would help solve some of the issues. Why isn't things happening?
Right.
Let them explain. This time we have he probably doesn't want it, our Director of Development Services, who actually is Development Director now, reports that information. He may not want it now after all this, right? We beat him up.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman Hammond, members of the Planning Commission. Thank you again for the congratulations. I'm here to serve the commission, the council, and the city. Just for planning purposes, we will have I think the plan is you have the Planning Commission tour on October 29th, so just put that on your calendar. We won't have the next meeting second meeting in October. We won't have that meeting. Next Planning Commission will be November 3rd. We have a few items at that meeting. One of the things that I do want to tackle is just the question of how this landscape plan check process works, and then I need to coordinate further with Public Works and on the LMD and the other issues you want to mention. We'll slowly tackle those items. One of the items that I do want to tackle is the truck route. I know that that's been a request that's been made by the Planning Commission and our council. And so we're going to tackle that, and the plan is to take it in the second meeting in November. So just kind of, I just want to put that on your radar of what's going on there. Beyond that, the city will have what we call the Harvest Festival, which will be on October 15th. And that will be at 5 p.m. here at the City Hall, I believe. And so with that said, I don't have any further feedback, just wishing everybody a good Indigenous Day on Monday if you have that day off. But beyond that, I just want to just thank this commission for providing staff feedback, and we'll work in addressing the issues that you bring up.
Now, before we dismiss, this is an administrative thing. We have at least 2 commissioners that don't have the access card there, so we want to put that on the radar. And, because we all want the cheap drinks, come on. Let's be honest. And I'm going to start charging this guy. So, put it on the tab, right? Yeah, and I think everyone put in for their shirts. I have like 10 shirts. Come on. Yeah.
Yes.
So Sylvia was good at getting that. I don't know and it was different qualities. So yeah. So,
And I do want to mention, I know there's quite a few questions about code enforcement. You can direct them to me, and I'll connect you with the code enforcement supervisor. Sometimes people identify issues because someone made the city aware of it. Sometimes it just gets lost, and you might drive down an area that someone might not be concerned about. But if you're concerned about it and it's inconsistent with what's going on in the city, of graffiti, structures falling over, let us know, because it gets addressed when we hear about it. And so and sometimes people, some people, if they don't express it, sometimes it gets lost.
yeah.
I believe there is a link for code
It
enforcement
is.
on the front page of the website.
Yes, there is.
I believe so.
Yes.
Yes.
And
But ultimately, we still like to have them grace us with their presence.
Yes,
Yeah,
we'll
being nice.
work at that.
Yeah, being nice, right?
Yeah, I have reported some things, and
I
I've
have too.
spoken to code enforcement, and they're like, we're on it. We already have it. We already know. And, still there in avocado.
Okay. With that, thanks for the patience. Thank our city attorney for being pretty nice to me tonight. Oh, I did better than last time. I was half asleep the last time. I had 2 days of jury duty in that.
read half the pages.
I know. Exactly. Exactly. Well, appreciate it too. Gosh, I think I had 2 days of jury duty, and by Wednesday I was like, I don't want to hear anymore. Okay. Anyway, with that, and thank you, Mr. Engineer. We want to adjourn. I don't know if we even need motions for adjournment. Just pick a name. Just pick any name. Pick a second. We don't care.
We are breaking ground. The Riverside County Transportation Commission and our project partners, Caltrans, the Federal Highway